Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 252, and we are in the new year. Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And ladies out there as well. It is 2023, January, what is this, 3rd, 4th?
4th.
Sure.
One of those days.
Yeah, it's actually warm here in Columbus, Ohio for today, and then it's going to be cold again. So we're excited about that. Hope you guys, wherever you are listening to this, either live or if you're listening after the fact on the podcast apps, you guys are having a great New Year's and off to a good start. We'll get into that a little bit in part 2 as well. We got AJ Kazmierczak here. It's been a little while, right?
Super happy to be back. Anytime I come hang with you guys, it always ends up with great conversation. Unfortunately, I didn't bring a friend this time, so you guys just have to deal with me, though. And
they will as well. So it's not just us that have to sacrifice here. But you're right. So that's good. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I love coming back on this show.
Love having you here, man.
I was going to say, I'm glad I get invited back.
You kind of
last resort
me, but
yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
You know,
it's good.
Logistics.
Sure. Sure. We had an opening. Anyways, I want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. We are smoking tonight the Alec and Bradley. I say Alec and Bradley, Gatekeeper. We're going to talk about that tonight. It is available at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, as it says on AJ's phone in the microphone. So if you didn't hear that, it is available at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. If you have a brick and mortar nearby, go ahead and see if they've got it. If you don't, you want to support local-ish and get from a brick and mortar, contact Tinderbox at Easton. They can ship it out to you. Or if you can't, just grab it online. I know Alec and Bradley and Alec Bradley cigars are available pretty much everywhere. They've gotten really nice and big, so that's good. Also, Altadis USA behind us. You'll see some logos: Monte Cristo, Romeo Julieta, H. Upman, Aging Room. We have a Monte Cristo Nicaragua series made by AJ Fernandez for them. That's going to be our second cigar tonight. So thank you, Altadis, for the continued support there. Hope to have another year coming up with them as our one of our primary sponsors. BS Cigar Company, gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia. The silver is made by Espinosa. You can see an Espinosa sign behind Nate back there, the 601 La Bamba, which is a sweet sign there. We love having that in the garage and the support from them as well. Also, you guys get through the rest of the ads here. You guys are the ad. It's patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. And we appreciate that. We just had another month of support come through. So we appreciate all you guys. Helps us out if you're watching last week or listened to last week's podcast. Got a new camera for the podcast. No thanks to the Apple Store. And we'll get into that maybe if I have enough to drink. But also Venmo at Bourbon and BS. If you guys want to do a one-time contribution, we appreciate the support. Helps us keep doing this. And when some of our equipment goes down, like the camera, we're able to get a webcam pretty quick, and thanks to you guys. So we appreciate that. And if you like my blue hoodie or Nate's Bourbon and BS Barrelhead hoodie, or I've got the podcast shirt in red, he's got it in, what is that, gray?
The OG with the logo on the back.
Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure it out together. That's going to be buyjack.com, Bourbon and BS for any of the shirts and swag. So, guys, check that out as well. We appreciate it. Tonight, we are, like I said, smoking the Alec and Bradley Gatekeeper. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to light it up. Before we do that, though, we've got a special creek.
Yes,
it is kind of.
We've got something tonight. The featured bourbon, technically, is, thanks to Nate, is the Knob Creek 9-year bourbon.
Yes.
Correct. But what brought that on to the show really was what AJ has brought with him, which is something kind of special. So we wanted to start with that. Then we'll get into our reviews. And as you do that, I'm going to go ahead and share the podcast live stream right now. Hopefully, if you guys are listening, you want to kick it out to more YouTube listeners or obviously on Facebook Live where we get a lot of our traffic. So share that while I do that. And AJ, go ahead, man.
Yeah. So I'm someone, I like sharing things, sharing limited things with good people. And I work in the craft beer industry, and I thought, what better way to merge the two than to bring a craft beer that has traditionally been known as arguably the greatest bourbon barrel-aged beer ever. And I was very fortunate. I was able to actually find a 30th anniversary Goose Island Bourbon County Stout. And so Goose Island, they release the Bourbon County Stout each year, just the regular branded stout. And then they've recently been doing a lot of different variations as well. Everything from like a cherry cola to a chocolate orange and everything in between with just real subtle nuances. But I was able to get my hands on this. And when I realized what the blend was that went into making this beer, I thought, who better to share it with than my buddies on the Bourbon and BS podcast. We talk bourbon. We all like each other, no matter how much Steve hates to admit it.
You had me up until recently. What are we drinking? No, just kidding.
So
go ahead.
So, you know, I mean, honestly, we'll call it eating dessert before dinner, but this Bourbon County Stout, for those that are listening, is 36% Booker's bourbon barrels, 33% Knob Creek bourbon barrels, which is where the Knob Creek 9-year also comes in, 17% Basil Hayden bourbon barrels, and 14% Baker's bourbon barrels. So this thing has it all. It is a big giant stout. It is 14.4%. This is, I mean, just from the packaging, the branding, it's
a hell of a box.
yeah. It honestly, the beer comes in a nicer package than what a lot of bourbon bottles come in.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the box that like a Booker's or the Little Book comes in.
Yeah. So it's, you know, for those of you listening that aren't, you know, tuning in, it's paper cardboard box, but it's got a slide out aspect to it. It's got a distinct holder for where the actual bottle goes. It's got little excerpts and verbiage discussing Goose Island and how they came up with this blend and things along those lines. But yeah, just really excited to share this with you guys, and excited to talk about it too, because I'm really curious to see how this is going to pair with the Gatekeeper. But yeah,
well, we haven't even lit up the cigar because we wanted to drink this on a clean palate.
Yeah.
And then light up the cigar.
Right. So, I mean, honestly, there's nothing else left to say. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, guys.
So, that's my kind of beer. Because I like stouts. I like heavy, thick beers.
Here's what's crazy.
I'm not a big fan of, you know, like the Bud Lights, Miller Lights, Michelob. This is my alley.
Here's what's crazy though. I've had some bourbon stouts that do retain some of that that burn on the back end.
Okay.
I mean, you know, you guys are much more experienced than I am in this realm, but I'm getting, you know, molasses, vanilla, caramel, very dessert-like, but not an artificial dessert-like.
It's clean. It doesn't have like, well, I shouldn't say clean. The flavor that's there really sits on your palate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those artificial flavors will kind of be thin and they'll have a short finish on with if there's anything artificially flavoring it. This one, because of, you know, basically they're just taking the stout, aging it in 4 different bourbon barrels, and then blending that together in the mix in the percentages that AJ talked about already. And that's what you're drinking. So, you know, it should definitely have some of those vanilla characteristics from the barrels. I also get just a shit ton of dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate, a little bit of coffee in there, which AJ should definitely know.
See, but I agree with you. I get more dark chocolate than I do coffee though. Like when you said dark chocolate, that's like a light going off in the head. This is a really good beer.
Yeah.
Definitely not mad at buying this beer. We've all had those regrets where we buy a bourbon or we buy a beer and we're like, man, this did not live up. If I could find a second bottle of this, and I know what I paid for it. If I could find a second bottle of this,
tell our listeners what you paid for it.
So this bottle, the standard Goose Island Bourbon County Stout, I believe, goes for $17 or $18.99. Then you have the renditions, the cherry cola, the orange chocolate. I think they did a caramel apple branded stout. Those guys are going anywhere from 22 to 25. The 30th anniversary, they ended up selling for $39.99.
Which is the same price as the Knob Creek.
I was going to say, if you're an opportunity cost guy or gal like myself, realizing what you could have bought with that, there's a long list that falls under the $40 mark. But
same thing happens in cigars too. Like, I mean, you can sit there and,
That's cool.
Plasencia came out with a cigar recently for the World Cup. It's a, mid 60s price cigar. So $66, $67 for a cigar. Yeah. And, you could buy, you could buy, 5-6 other cigars that you really enjoy for that same price. But again, they only did 2,500 boxes for the US of that cigar. So
you guys are all sold out of that, right?
Nope.
No, we've got we're on the last box of 10.
Remind me to text Daniel.
Okay.
My business partner in the coffee company, for those of you that are new, he is a massive soccer fan. And so we, at the coffee shop, we had the games playing in the background the entire time. So I'll have to mention that to him.
Yeah, we could set one aside for him for sure.
Nate, can you actually set that box over on the side? Appreciate you.
I'm gonna light up the cigar here. That you guys hit them all. I mean, that's what you're looking for in a stout when it comes to me. It's unique to a point. I mean, I can see where they're, it's the fun part with all the different bourbon getting involved there. It reminds me of one of those, what is that one that's really popular? The Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale and stout. That's a really popular one for a reason. And I think this really kind of takes it another step further. I think this is going to be very enjoyable. Clearly, it's a collector's bottle that you guys were talking about it. I mean, I think some people will never crack this beer, and it's kind of a shame. It's cool and all, but I mean, I think, what you did, AJ, and not just because it's us, but the fact that you cracked it, basically it's all gone, right? But you can easily put that bottle, rinse it out, put the bottle, and then put it back in there, and then you have a memory up on one of your bar shelves. It doesn't always have to be a full bottle, in my opinion. It doesn't always have to be a full bottle. You can have not just random empties, but something like this. This is something cool if you wanted to hang on to it.
Yeah, and I go back and forth both ways with this, which is these darker stouts. If you cellar them properly, you can treat them just like a good red wine. You can treat them just like a solid bourbon, and they'll keep for a very long time. However, the alcohol content will continue to go up, and it starts at 14.4. So if you're not cracking this for 4 or 5 years, that's going to jump to 16, 18% alcohol.
Well, maybe you should have waited until episode 500.
Well, but it all falls back on the way I look at bourbon and the way I look at this style of craft beer and stuff like that. I want to be able to remember it for more than just
what just happened.
The bottle. I want to be able to remember it for more than the more than the whiskey that was in it, things like that. I want to remember the fact that I drank this bottle, and you're right, I am going to save it. I drank this with my buddies on the Bourbon and BS podcast. We had a great time doing it, and
that's to be seen.
Well, we're having a great time so far.
Yes.
No one knows how the night's going to end.
We don't. We really don't. We haven't had a stout before.
We're off to a good start so far.
Yeah. And
we are going beer liquor. So.
I had no idea what this was going to taste like, but honestly, I think I was spot on in saying we're having dessert before dinner because this is incredibly sweet.
It is. That's a fun beer.
Well, and I've had one of these before, so I kind of had an idea of what to expect because I've had some of the stuff from Goose Island
with the bourbon barrels.
The bourbon barrels, yeah. But it was just the regular release each year. It wasn't obviously the 30th anniversary year.
Yeah.
One with all the different barrels. But yeah, the last one I had it actually does say on it that you can cellar it for up to 5 years if you wanted to. And basically at that point, it's that's going to be about as good as it gets. at that point. And I was like, I ain't waiting that long.
And look at the way that hugs that glass too.
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm. Very similar to dry reds.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I feel like the darker beers also have legs. You know, it's basically colored a clear glass.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
it borderline. Some of these, I think, sometimes not just this one, but sometimes they'll borderline a little bit syrupy,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
like the viscosity, and then also I feel like sometimes the very very end finish where you were saying like the chocolate and like dark chocolate, it's kind of it doesn't get bitter, it just kind of has that
Little bite,
a little
to
bit
it.
of, but like it's a sugary.
Oh.
Almost like a fake sugar or like a
no,
raw
no,
sugar?
like a raw sugar.
Okay.
Yeah, like a raw sugar that kind of like a classic like Cuban coffee,
Yeah.
where it's
I
got like
love
you
Cubanos.
right. Yeah, so you got like that raw
Yep.
sugar that you put a little bit too much in there.
Okay.
So you put it in you know what I mean? It's the right amount, but it's too much. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's like you have that, you take that sip. It's at the end of a little Cuban or a Cubano, like a little Cuban coffee.
You got to chew it a little.
Right. So you already had that, you drank most of it. And then
Yep.
last sip, where it has a little bit of that raw sugar that really hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
That's that finish.
Pause. For those of you that have never had a Cubano, what Steve's discussing is all it is it sounds way fancier than it actually is. It's a shot of espresso over top raw sugar, and it is my favorite way to drink espresso. But you're spot on. There's always
You know what
that
I'm saying?
little bit of raw sugar that either didn't dissolve or
Yeah.
it didn't get mixed in
Yeah.
or whatever. But
It's just like that's, yeah, it's the very end.
But I got news for you.
It's good.
I'm still drinking it.
No, I actually, that's one of my, I don't want to say my favorite parts. Like, because when I was, down south, it wasn't you pour it over the raw sugar. You would come out with the little saucer
Mhm.
with every time 2 of the raw sugar, like the thinner packs.
Mhm.
So it'd be like the 2, and pretty much everyone that I saw literally just took both thin packs, ripped them both, and poured it into the coffee, and that's it.
See, now that's interesting because
That was in Havana.
I was gonna say not to give a history lesson, and actually you've been to Havana more times than I've been to Havana.
Once.
But
This would be more then, wouldn't
supposedly the traditional way to do a Cubano, the right way, coffee shop style, is you actually put the raw sugar in the portafilter where you put the espresso grinds. So you put it in the portafilter, goes up into the espresso machine. The reason 90% of businesses don't do that, it gums
I was
up
gonna say, yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of people will either pour the espresso into the raw sugar, or like you said, they'll just add the raw sugar in after the fact. It still gives a
And I think
very,
anymore, again, we were in Havana, so it was like, again, a little bit touristy or whatever, but not everyone wants it like that. So they give you the option, sugar on the side type thing.
right.
I think anymore, even down there, I think that was partly the hospitality side of it, but that's what it reminded me of. Because
But-
you're right, when I was at Eric Espinosa's place, they just basically served it, had a little froth on the top of it, the sugar's already in there, and you're just like, oh, this tastes good. And then 4 later, you're basically on cocaine.
Jazz,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna have to get me some of
Yeah,
that.
let's go.
Just a bump.
If you're in Miami, just look up Eric.
we'll just fly down there just for the
Just for
espresso.
that. Put it on your Jenny's job.
Hey,
Research.
well,
As
Hey,
research.
market research.
That's what I'm saying. Daniel can stay at home. I'll take his place, and I'm the liaison.
I mean, he is hopefully going to India this coming year
I
for
think
the
you
for our
can fit in
coffee
the budget
company.
to Miami if he's
So-
flying to India.
Wow.
Maybe
It-
you can't if he's flying to India.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the trip.
But
trip.
that's the dream, is to hopefully be able to get him out to all the places that we source from. But yeah, no, this is fantastic.
No, I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, cheers, guys. I'm really happy to be here, be back on, share this with you guys and chat.
Absolutely.
Now, to segue in as my beard's getting caught in the microphone,
That's gross.
talk to me about the cigar, man.
Well, let's pour some of the whiskey too.
All right,
right,
we're gonna
Let's-
pour
let's-
some
Let's
whiskey.
stay on the liquid diet here for a moment.
Don't mind all 3 of
So-
our glass.
So anyone who was paying
You
attention,
have a
when-
whiskey glass?
They never gave me a whiskey glass. They thought I was just drinking
I'll
beer
get
the
it. Nate,
entire
carry
time.
the show for a moment.
I'm just gonna take Steve's when he leaves.
wait for it.
Wait, pause.
Ooh, that was a really good cork pop.
That was a good
That
one.
was a really good cork pop. So if anyone that was paying attention when AJ was reading off the 4 different barrels, so you had Booker's, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden, and Baker's. Those are all coming out of the same Claremont distillery for Beam Suntory. The Knob Creek 9-year actually uses the exact same mash bill as Jim Beam.
Really?
It's a 75% corn, 13% barley, 12% rye, or 13% rye, 12% barley. Either one.
Now, I have not to interrupt you, but this way, you know, I can. I have no problem being wrong.
Okay.
And that don't do that. don't do that.
Get used to some things.
Anyways, I have not found a Knob Creek that I've been over the moon about. I don't know if maybe I just got it in the head that I don't like the brand, or I had not great batch one time. I have no idea, but Knob Creek is one of those brands that I will not go out of my way to buy.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens
So
tonight.
so Knob Creek does have a few iterations. They have a 9-year, there's a 12-year. Recently they did an 18. They have a full proof. They've got a rye that's at 100%. They've also got a barrel proof rye or barrel select rye. So the Knob Creek 9 that we're drinking now, that is the baseline Knob Creek, is 9-year. Knob Creek came out in 92. So it's only been around for 30 years.
Really?
Wait, really?
Yeah. It's only been.
I like how 92, you're like, man, that's new. And then like, you say it out loud and say 30 years. You're like, fuck me.
Wait, hang on, wait. I just watched real time one of Steve's hairs on his beard turn gray.
Oh, no. But you were one. It was at the end of 2020. We were doing a FaceTime call. And you're like, man, your beard got gray. I
didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
Wait,
or no, it wasn't on FaceTime. I did on the group message. I sent a picture from one of my walks. And you're like,
did it
man.
Stay? That was 2 years ago, man. You got to move on from that.
Hey, some things stick with you.
You can still push more weight than me, so I'll give that to you.
So the 9 years, the standard product, and then in 2009, they announced that they were going to be taking off the 9-year label or 9-year marking.
2000 what?
In 2009.
Okay.
Because
we've got a 9-year right here.
Wait for it. Let him finish.
Would you shut up? So apparently in 2009, they realized that in 2000, they did not put enough barrels away of this product. And so Suntory wanted to remove the age statement. And so that way they could at least fulfill demand for the Knob Creek product. And then in 2016, they put it back on.
Okay.
So they were able to start cranking out some more. And then in 2016, 2019, they announced it would return. The 9-year age statement returned 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 2020.
So they were they didn't think they were going to be able to stay up with the 9-year thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically they were selling so much of the Knob Creek that
they didn't think they could sit on. They didn't have enough.
Yeah. So what they had distilled and put away in 2000, after 2000, the demand for their product actually started to increase.
Yeah.
And so they realized that they did not have enough 9-year barrels to fulfill that demand.
Okay.
So they were going to take the age statement off, because kind of like what was it, Maker's Mark was going to do a few years ago. They were going to proof it down in order to meet the demand for their stuff, and then people threw
they would have lost their
they
minds.
did. People threw a hissy fit about it, and so then they're like, "Psych, we're not going to do it. We changed our minds. We're not going to do it."
The power to the people,
exactly. But Knob Creek, they at least did that for a decade, where it was not age stated, and then and then the age statement came back.
That I feel like I say this every time I come on with you guys, but this is why I hang out with you guys. That is a history lesson to me that now I've got a new party trick and I can tell everyone about the history of Knob Creek 9 years.
So.
Well, and there's not a whole lot of history because, like I said, they've only been around for 30 years. There's not a whole. It's not like one of these companies that's been around since the 1800s.
Right.
We should buy we should do another one of these, like another one of the Knob Creek ones, and really try to dive into a little bit more of how they got started,
the full history.
Yeah,
of
I think.
Well, prior to this, the only Knob Creek we've done was episode 42, and that was a barrel pick from a group up in Cleveland that we had.
You were a human.
I wasn't even part of the podcast.
Encyclopedia.
I wasn't even part of the podcast for that, but I think I was in the garage for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his retention is
the old garage.
Also, I've had one sip of this, and I'm chalking up my.
That's what I was going to ask.
I'm chalking up my distaste for Knob Creek as just I had not had many bourbons at that time.
Coming from the pint though, or like the whatever we had.
It could be retaining sweetness.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I mean, we really coated our palate with the molasses aspect of the Bourbon County Stout.
Literally with the viscosity coated, I feel like too.
Yeah,
well, drink some water, clean your palate,
no.
rinse that shit out.
It tastes delicious right now. I don't want to do that. But you know, I've only had one sip, and I can tell you this: it is nothing like what I remember. Now, whether that's a manufactured memory or if I actually had just like. Because I remember Knob Creek as being a straight just burnt the entire time. And I'm getting none of that.
All right. So that's a good point. And I will say, I don't know what the answer is going to be on this, but when do you think in your, call it your whiskey or bourbon journey, do you think you had Knob Creek?
Oh, we're talking early. I mean, I'm 28 now. I would say probably, I feel like 23 sounds like a good number.
So
5 years ago.
So I mean,
yeah.
The reason I say that is because if it was sitting at 100 proof, if this is what you had, Lou says, are we going to rate the beer and bourbon
we're
pairing?
Definitely doing that.
We can include that in there. We can do that here in just a moment. But I guess, you know, I think Knob Creek sometimes because like, you know, what Nate was saying, it's since what, 92? So, you know, you're since 1992. It's a newer one, Knob Creek. It's from Kentucky, but Claremont, Kentucky, as it says here. I think, you know, 100 proof back when you were 23, you know, 5-6 years ago.
A little hot.
Well, also remember,
they burned the shit out of you because I don't think you had
a little hot.
I don't think, you know, that's early on. This is like your early on one. This is with the makers. This is with even like the Jim Beams and stuff like that. When you're in a bar, you're like. When you went to a bar 5-6 years ago, there was a little bit of the bourbon boom starting to really happen, but there were a lot of bars that they didn't have the bourbon selection you had now. So
that's fair.
Basically, you had, you know, those, you know, I got bourbons, I got Jim Beam, I got Makers, and I got Knob Creek.
And I got Jack.
Well, Jack, they probably would call it just the whiskeys, not even bourbons or Tennessee.
Right.
Like it would literally just be like, I've got whiskeys. These are the 4 or 5 you had. Not defending it, but I think that might have been why this stuck with you, and then you've gone on this journey of like trying all these different
and just
bourbons.
avoiding it at all costs.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not gonna get that. That's bullshit. You know
don't forget if the last time AJ had Knob Creek was 5 years ago, it wasn't age stated, so it was actually younger mix than what this is.
Oh,
so it was a different product.
Oh, now it's never good when you get silent on a podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a really good point.
Do you like Jim Beam?
I and this is no joke. I could not tell you the last time I had Jim Beam. I've seen a couple of people make cocktails with double black.
Okay,
and so I would like to try that. No,
Steve, Steve and I had a bad experience with Jim Beam Black.
All right, so,
I got COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
You got COVID. Wait, are we putting that on the podcast?
That was 2 years ago.
From Jim Beam Double Black.
It was just black. I can't say I did or didn't. I had COVID after that night. I tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, he tested positive the next day.
I don't know.
Something in the water or the whiskey.
He tested positive the next day.
Probably.
And Dustin and I had to do the podcast, just the two of us.
Oh man.
Thanks, Great Lakes Smoke Show.
Your guys.
Before we get too far gone, I do like Lou's thing where he said, are we going to rate the beer and the bourbon pairing?
I'm interested to have you take a few more sips of that
But
bourbon.
I think we all started our smoke. Did we all start our smoke
We
and
did.
have a couple of sips of
Yeah.
the beer?
Yeah.
I had a couple of sips of the beer, most of the beer pour, and then lit up the cigar, and then had some of the whiskey.
Well, I brought it, so you guys go first. What do you think about the beer?
Are we on the ratings already?
Well, just
No.
with this
We're
part,
just doing the
okay.
beer.
we'll do the
About to say, I was like, what
general
the hell?
ratings at the end. But I mean, yeah, this isn't a bad thing to do. You know, as I
Yeah.
put up on the screen there, you know, Lou says, "Are we going to rate the beer and bourbon pairing?" So yeah, Nate, go ahead with it.
Wait, we're okay. So the beer
Just
and
like how these pair together. We had the bourbon, or we had the beer and then the bourbon.
Oh wait.
Right, that's what we're doing. Beer and bourbon pairing. He's asking.
yeah,
Oh.
we're pairing the two liquids.
Well, I need to start drinking more beer with bourbon then.
Jesus Christ.
Well, depending on your ratings, yeah, maybe. We don't know yet. Jesus Christ.
Nate, you're up first,
No,
man.
well, no, I think
Squirrel.
I like the beer more than the bourbon. But kind of with AJ, like I want to sit there, like drink some water and then have the bourbon on its own, like kind of after cleaning my palate a little bit, because there could be some of that influence just from the flavor and sweetness of the stout and how it kind of makes the bourbon coat your palate a little bit and you get a lot of that sweetness. So, but no, the whiskey's good. It's a real good whiskey. But I love the beer.
Well, that's I
love
was gonna
the
say your
beer.
milk. So
All right, so
Steven,
hang on. We'll rate the beer and,
All right, that's fair.
and rate how let's do the pairing. Don't
the
rate the
pairing
whiskey yet.
directly.
Yeah, so the beer and the pairing with the whiskey.
Oh, so
Two ratings here.
all right, so
Out of 10, what would you rate the beer?
beer is going to be 9.5.
Wow.
Ooh,
It's a good,
that's a
but-
strong.
but this is in my alley for beers. Like
You don't have to defend your 9.5s. Don't do that. Don't let AJ get in your head like that.
you guys suck.
I'm trying to
I
work
know.
with
So-
you.
So you're a 9.5 on the beer.
How does it pair with the Knob Creek so far?
The pairing's good. I mean, I give the pairing with those two going back and forth an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right.
Go
My
yeah,
turn?
go ahead.
Oh, sweet.
Sweet.
As much crap as I'm giving Nate, honestly, I'm kind of in that same realm. Just because I like giving room for growth, I'll give the beer by itself a 9.2. So I mean, we're right there.
Maybe another 30 years they'll get it.
Well, I mean, maybe if you are able to find the 30th anniversary and you're able to cellar it for 5 months or 5
Sure.
years, that's gonna be amazing. The thing I will say though is I actually, just because curiosity killed the cat, I will drop the pairing rating. So the beer with the bourbon, I'll drop that to like a let's call it an 8.6. And hopefully one of your listeners has this bottle with them. I would love to see how this beer, or hear how this beer pairs with something of higher proof. Like
All right.
the thing that comes to my
Well, this
mind
is 100 proof
Well,
whiskey, so
Go ahead,
well,
finish.
but
finish
the
what
thing
you're
that
saying.
comes to my mind is what would Bourbon County Stout 30th anniversary taste like with Stag Junior or Little Book or even Booker's? Because
Yeah, one of the Bookers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost when I tasted the two together before I went to the water, I almost was like, there's no bourbon bite. There's no alcohol bite. So what if you were able to get that caramel, vanilla, molasses taste, and then all of a sudden, hey, here's your bourbon with something of higher proof. So I'm a 9.2 on the beer by itself, and I'm at, what did I say, 8.6?
yes.
And I'm at 8.6 with the pairing, but insanely good.
Yeah, the beer is definitely a 9+. I think this one's, I mean, it's a treat for sure. If you guys like stouts, if you don't like stouts, then I wouldn't waste your money on the $40 bottle here, right? Because again, I mean, this is for $40. I'm expecting maybe one of the little bit bigger. I don't know the
Yeah.
measurements they use, you know what I mean, but a bigger beer bottle, you know what I mean, with like maybe the what is that kind of cap that you pop off with the metal that's on it, you know, it just hangs there.
Cap with the metal.
The old school.
I'm lost. That's a you guys thing.
All right. I don't know what's called.
I mean, I've had some beers that were corked.
Not corked.
Oh no.
It's the one where like
it
it kind
talking
of
about.
it pops off, but it's got the metal hinge there, and it's
So-
like hangs.
So you're saying you wish this was
Like for $40, I wish it was like like whatever.
Well,
pint.
so, okay, all right, well-
what is this? $3.75. What is this?
16.9.
Yeah.
Bring that into the equation. Okay. So this beer, Goose Island, only does the bourbon counties in a 16.9 ounce bottle.
Yeah.
We call those bomber bottles
Mhm.
in the industry. I agree. If you had like a 20 ounce or even a 24 ounce with the like you said, the metal
You know what I'm talking
cap,
about? Like pops off and then just like hangs there.
yeah,
up there,
very
like,
traditional.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was for $40. That's what I just wish there was a little bit more for it. I think this is a fun project. I definitely 9+ on this, and I think that beer having it first, then going to the Knob Creek 9-year, that was the. I'm not saying this is going to get bad. That was the best I think that we're going to enjoy. This whiskey was this first couple of sips after drinking the beer.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Just because it's different.
Well,
I'm not saying
yeah.
it's going to get bad
Because I've cleaned my palate and gone to the whiskey. So yeah, you're right.
And Ray says, so Steve would rather pay more for the packaging. Well, you got to listen to the whole statement. I was saying for $40, it should be a little bit bigger, like more volume there for me.
I mean,
oh, there you go.
I mean, that's a fair point.
Yeah,
though.
you're right, Lou. Yeah.
Grolsch?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, and then I was reminded, so a restaurant that I like that's on the south end of town, not too far away from where Jennings Java is, Walters.
Oh, I love Walters.
Yeah.
Great brunch.
The water bottles that he puts on the
Yes.
table are those where it's got that stopper that
Yeah.
pops off and hinges. Yeah.
Yep.
It didn't.
As soon as my
We're
wife
all
texted
here.
me that, also
Thank you.
now I
Jess
just
knows. Lou knows.
but I'll
DJ got there.
I'll say this, having tried this with you guys, don't regret it in the slightest. I'm so glad we did this.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
If we did this with a 20 or 24 ounce bottle, I may have actually rated it higher just because I would have had some to take home.
Sure.
Maybe enjoy it a later time.
Probably not, but yeah.
Things like that. Maybe it would have been a 9.4. 9.5, really? But if you can find a Bourbon County 30th anniversary stout at $40, I would buy a second bottle. That's where I'm at with it.
one thing I'm glad. So Goose Island was purchased, I believe it was back in 2009.
Oh, history lesson. Give me another.
So it was 14 years ago, I believe, that they got purchased
Okay.
by someone much bigger.
Okay.
I'm glad to see that the parent company that bought them had enough sense to let them keep doing what they were doing.
Basically bought it out and said, we're not going to touch this. You guys do
Yeah,
your
like
thing."
a lot of the Goose Island products, because Goose Island's from Chicago.
Yep.
They're a small craft distillery from Chicago.
Yeah.
And one of the big boys came around and bought them, and I think it was 2009. But they were selling so much; it was so popular, especially in Chicago.
Yeah.
That I think the parent company was like, "You guys just keep doing what you're doing. We bought you because you're going to make
lot, right?
Yeah, we bought you because you're going to make us money."
Yeah. So if you notice, also AJ, look at your glass. Just out of a theme, you look at your glass.
All right. Oh.
Yeah.
Was that done intentionally,
It
or
was
just
done
because you forgot to
intentionally.
bring me a tumbler?
Well, when I grabbed I didn't know it was my responsibility. I am the host. I understand, but you're also an adult.
Those of you that aren't watching, Steve brought me a tumbler with the street layout of Chicago.
That's right.
And where's Goose Island from?
Chicago. Full
I knew I was going to ace this test.
It's a tough one.
All right, AJ.
It's a
Well,
tough one.
here's your last question for the
Oh.
test.
Ray, listen, I agree. $40 for a stout is a little wild, but you get the history, you get the blend notes, the percentage.
It's a once a year thing.
No. This is never happening again because
Okay.
it's a 30th
It's the
anniversary.
30th anniversary.
The next one will be a 50th
So
anniversary.
I think it's more of a collector's thing.
Yeah.
I also think
Oh,
paying whatever people pay for Pappy is stupider.
Yes, I.
Okay,
Well,
that's
there we have it.
that's
All
fair.
right, so
AJ, your last test question.
All right.
Who was the company that bought Goose Island?
If I had to just off the cuff guess, I would say Anheuser-Busch, but that's probably not correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay!
There we
Hey, I
are.
knew I was going to take a test.
Because last night or Monday night, when I was in Carfagna's, and Steve, I told you I ran into someone from Watershed whose lady friend was actually looking, wanted to try this bottle. Also ran into a guy who used to work for Goose Island.
No, you didn't.
I did.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
That's awesome.
It's amazing who you meet at a liquor store.
Once again, not once again, but I will say this. I work in craft beer sales all over Columbus.
Here's a good plug for you. Where do you work here?
Oh,
You have multiple
I wear a lot of hats,
occupations,
but my day job that pays the bills, love the guys to death, is Nocterra Brewing Company. The whole shtick is beer plus outside equals Nocterra. So whether you like mowing the lawn or you are climbing Mount Everest, you're our type of people. If you enjoy being outside, you're our type of people.
What if I like drinking on a patio?
That would be Trail Break, Sunscreen. Those are all different
The
types.
IPAs, like citrus.
No,
ones. All right,
no.
cool.
It's a Summer Wheat, which
They're
is basically
shandies.
a Blue Moon on steroids.
Sure.
Or we've got Trail Break, which is what my dad, who is a lifelong Michelob Ultra drinker, that's what he'll drink when he comes up to the to the spot. But we do IPAs, sours, barrel-aged stouts as well.
You guys have a brewery location in Columbus area, right?
Yeah, so that's going to be in downtown Powell. So
Beautiful
Little
place.
North, gorgeous. It's an
Love
old
it.
train depot.
Yeah.
Giant beer garden. I was just there at a previous business meeting, and we had the fire pits roaring. It's 40 degrees outside. You get a dark beer. You sit by the fire. It is just a great time.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at was, with me being all over Columbus, I can tell our local Columbus residents there are still boxes, because that's what it comes in, bottles of this 30th anniversary stout out in the wild.
Sure.
And so
And I'm sure elsewhere too, if you're listening elsewhere.
yeah, there's some states that aren't as stringent. Stringent? Am I using that right?
Yeah, but I think the beer side of it is a little different than the liquor side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
there's a limit to
different,
the
yeah.
percentage, or some states have a limit to the percent of alcohol you can have in a beer. That's why for the longest time,
You couldn't get the Utopia.
Yeah, Ohio couldn't get Utopias
Yep.
because Utopias was a 25% alcohol beer from Sam Adams, and for the longest time, Ohio had a limit. I think the limit used to be like 14 or 15%.
It was,
and then
less than 14.
They changed it several years ago.
We're just going to assume that it was because of Goose Island, Bourbon County. It's a good plug.
Sure.
But moving on.
No, I was just that was cool about the Nocterra. We'd like to have you guys, like, you come on and represent a little bit more of that. Maybe have a beer episode with you guys.
Yeah.
Craft beer.
I'd love to do a beer episode.
No, can't do it.
No, we've got two different barrel-aged stouts.
Perfect.
One called Cave of the Swallows, and one is a barrel-aged stout with coconut and
You got a place to
vanilla.
smoke up there that we would have some little privacy?
I could probably make something happen.
That'd be a cool one.
It would be a great
That'd
episode.
be a cool one.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah. We'll see you remotely. We'll be in the garage. Hey, AJ, it looks cold out there. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
For those of you new, Steve only invites me out once a quarter because that's all he can stand.
It's just there's only so much man here that
So the Alec and Bradley Gatekeeper.
I really want to know about this because I am thoroughly enjoying this cigar.
Yeah, so this one for me is a little interesting. So we've had the Rubins on the show before. Have we had Bradley on, or just Alec and Alan?
I think just Alec and Alan.
Bradley has been in my old garage after a 10 event. For
Yes.
an epic night of
Oh my!
drinking Blanton's.
We're not going to go there.
no. Yeah, we've told those stories on the podcast before, but we've had Alec on. We've had Alan, the father, who
Wait,
owns,
which one's the one that has the mustache?
That's Bradley. The younger
Bradley's who we had on with Ryan, I think, and we had the what's the whiskey behind me?
one. No, Alec was in the garage.
Was it Alec?
He's the older.
I thought it was the Hudson
Yeah,
baby
I don't
bourbon.
Anyways, Alec and Bradley. So when you hear that, it's funny in the cigar industry, you hear Alec Bradley is a brand founded by Alan Rubin. Okay. Alan was on the podcast during the time of lockdown. It was a great episode. We even had multiple screens on here. So it was like Kate, myself, Alan. We had people that have been on the podcast before, local guys, Shannon, Sean, I forget, Ryan Ponis was on from Alec Bradley. I mean, we had a screen full of people remote, and it was a great episode. Love that one. Look back at that one if you guys want to look it up on YouTube or wherever else on the podcast.
I'll find out which episode it was.
And so anyways, Alec Bradley gets, people call it the wrong name. They call it Alec Baldwin. They call it Alex Bradley. Yeah. I mean, it's just Alec Bradley. He named the company after his two sons, Alec and Bradley.
I mean, honestly, I'm the least informed out of the two or out of the three of us, but I assumed Alec Bradley was the first and last name of whoever started,
which is where it can get confusing, and that's why it's kind of a cool thing that he took. And I'm of the opinion that, you know, Alan Rubin getting into this, and again, go back. Did you find the episode?
Episode 114.
Episode 114 of the Bourbon and BS podcast. He gives some of that history of how he got started, what he used to do, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, naming it after his sons, I think it's really cool because you immediately bring in a little bit of a family history to be determined, you know, where a lot of these companies are, you know, generations, you know, so it's kind of what we're talking about with the whiskey side of things too. You know, it's like generations doing this. Well, you know, Knob Creek is 30 years old. Alec Bradley is, I forget where they're at. They're 20, 30 years old now too. He's been doing it for a while now, but he did this with the now coming to fruition where the sons are really getting involved in the business. And so the Alec and Bradley Gatekeeper is the third
rendition.
No, third offering from them working on it. Yeah, the Blind Faith, this, and then the Kintsugi, or the Kintsugi, then this.
Kintsugi was the most recent one.
So this was the second one, I believe.
The Kintsugi, I believe, came out very, very late 2020.
Okay.
Which I haven't had that one yet, but I distinctly remember Nate and I believe you, Steve, rating it very high. Whether it was whether it was on a podcast or whether it was just personal Instagrams.
Yeah. We featured the Kintsugi, I think, in 2021.
Yeah.
That was with the gentleman who had his own shoe cleaning company.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that was. We featured that with the Old Forester 1910.
Also, great episode. This was the sophomore release, so this is 2019. So it's just interesting that they were kind of branching off, doing some different things with like them being in the company, and it was to me, it was interesting to see how they were doing it. The Blind Faith came out, and I got to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the prototype when it came out. I thought it was a little bit better. Not really my cup of tea. This came out. I wanted to like it a lot. I liked it okay. Again, 2019. They teamed up with Ernesto Perez Carrillo on this, which he's a legend in the industry currently and has many #1 cigars, highly rated cigars. Just great individual. And the thing. The story behind this is big because they hadn't really worked with EPC, Ernesto Perez Carrillo, so they didn't work with EPC a whole lot on their cigars, to my knowledge. This was something that they were able to start teaming up with. So even like on this is from Half Wheel. This is a cool quote from Alec Rubin, which is, again, the son, the oldest son. Working with Ernesto opens up new doors for Bradley and me. Ernesto is a gatekeeper to new opportunities and experiences for us, thus the name Gatekeeper. I think it was a cool story. I mean, they've got great marketing. It's just they're a fun family to know and work with.
And, you know, I'd like to add this in. Obviously, you know, you two smoke way more cigars than I do. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. I would like to, I mean, I've been coming to the Tinderbox since I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
I would like to think that I've, you know, been around the block a little bit. I can wholeheartedly say I have not had a bad smoke from Alec Bradley / Alec and Bradley.
Sure.
I mean, still to this day, one of my stocking stuffers that my wife gets me is
the fresh pack.
Is the fresh pack.
Yeah.
It's a, you know, a 4 or is it 5? Four cigars.
4 cigars, and it's usually going to come in around that mid-20s, mid-upper 20s, depending on
it's
your
4
state.
cigars. It's $20-$25. There's always a magic toast in there, which is one of my favorites from those guys. The Prensado is a fantastic
Which
smoke.
the
They switch it up
Prensado
every quarter too.
Yeah. The Prensado was a #1 cigar of the year.
for good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
When
I mean,
we had Alan on, we talked about how that getting that #1 rating in the largest cigar publication, like how that affected business and what you had to do after that.
That was a cool one for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So check out episode 114 if you want to hear Alan Rubin talk about what it's like getting a #1 rating.
I'm gonna go back and listen to that.
It's a fun one to watch also on YouTube and Facebook if you can scroll back to that.
I might do that.
Just because it was cool to see him on there because he went back into his office
and we were drinking scotch that night.
We were because they team up with them, for sure.
But yeah, so I mean, mind you, I get no kickback. I get no money, no free cigars, no nothing. The Alec Bradley brand, and even getting the history lesson from you guys, it just solidifies why I like that brand so much.
Sure.
So next time you guys go to your local shop, definitely ask about Alec and Bradley. And if we're being honest, I really like this smoke.
Yeah.
And
so let me kind of
go ahead,
finish what we're talking
go
about
for
here.
it.
So with that being said, they basically with this one, it's got an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, which I love. Typically Nicaraguan binder, and then it's Nicaraguan Dominican filler. Here's the kicker. I don't know exactly when it changed, but due to just the popularity, I think, of this cigar and the limitations of what their relationship with EPC was with his obligations of running his company, this cigar, I don't know how public knowledge, I'm sure they released it at some point, but all the articles go back to EPC. It's coming out of Plasencia now.
I like Plasencia.
So
too.
I'm glad you told me that because I was gonna.
Did you know that, Nate?
I did not know that.
Not many people do. In fact, I kind of found out we got a shipment. So Alec Bradley Cigars works with, to my knowledge, 2 major companies. One is Plasencia, one is Raíces Cubanas in Honduras, and Plasencia out of their Honduras and Nicaraguan factories.
Yeah.
This box came in, this is a while back, and it was mostly Gatekeeper, and the box said Plasencia on it.
Wow. I didn't know.
So I didn't realize it was like that, and I forget what else it was.
That explains because as AJ was talking, I was actually no, it was while you were talking about how the cigar was originally coming out of EPC.
Sure.
I smoked a lot of stuff from EPC, even some of the stuff that he does for other brands.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of cigars coming out of his factory that I find myself waiting for the flavor. Yeah. I'm waiting for the strength to build up. I'm waiting, for the flavor intensity to pick up.
Yeah.
And it never gets there.
Yeah.
All the cigar, not all, most of the cigars that I've had over the last couple of years from EPC, they're just light on flavor. They have good flavor, but that flavor is so light. I wish it was bolder, just in the flavor intensity, not the strength of the cigar, just the strength of the flavor.
Yeah.
So when I was smoking this, I was like, and you said that they was originally coming out of EPC. I was like, this is one of the most flavorful cigars I've ever had.
So
coming out of EPC. Turns out it's coming out of Plasencia. So that makes sense.
Your subconscious knew what was going on.
So this is coming out of it's July of 2021 when it changed hands, and it was because of the capacity issues. I just looked that up while you were talking, Nate.
Okay.
So I wasn't too far off on what I assumed. I'm with you because when I first smoked this one, the Gatekeeper, I was like, Blind Faith, all right. Gatekeeper, sweet packaging. The box is the box isn't that sexy, but the band is, and then like the marketing on the ads, it's like I forget.
Well, and this is another one of those Alec and Bradley bands where the primary there's actually 2 bands.
Yeah, and
the primary one actually overlaps the one underneath it.
Right. But my point is that I didn't care for it 100%. when it came out. I wanted to because I like the Rubins. I like Alec and Bradley. I've had the fortune to have them both over at my house. It's been.
Did you just plug that?
And at the 10 event.
At the 10 event, yeah.
Smoking 10 event coming up.
March 18th, 2023.
I'm so excited.
We had a big. I'm not going to say it on the podcast. There's very few people that know, but we had a great confirmation of a guest this morning, so happy about that.
Oh,
yeah, can't say who it is. There's some little so Abe down at Smoke End rescheduled his event same weekend as ours out of nowhere. So we've had some people that have had to choose. We luckily have one. I don't know if he's going to go to both, but yeah. So Saturday, March 18th, 2023. Anyways, I was going to say, I like this cigar more now, and I didn't realize because I didn't smoke it a whole lot. I like the marketing and everything else. I wanted to like this cigar a lot. I like Alec and Bradley. And then more recently, I tried it again after knowing that. And then tonight, I'm kind of with you, Nate. I like this cigar more, even if they tried to duplicate the blend. I think this is a.
Do you think, why do you think we like this cigar more now that it's coming out of Plasencia? Is it the tobacco that Plasencia uses versus what Ernesto is using, or is it a completely different blend?
So it's not a completely different blend as far as the makeup. Now, what I'll say is that when doing the BS Gold, which was a project that I'm involved in, that one was originally through Casa Fernandez, now Aganorsa Leaf. Similarly, because of consistency issues,
we'll just say that,
switched to Plasencia, who we actually got introduced to through Alec Bradley, and actually it was a conversation with Alec Rubin. So we basically sent them, told them the blend to our knowledge, the best we had written down, and it was like, hey, this is what we have. Sent them some existing BS Golds, and then Ralph Montero, who's their guide with Plasencia. He works for Alec Bradley, but he's their blender with them. He deconstructed it and then basically tried to reblend the cigar. Now he did change a little bit of the blend to try to duplicate it with what he had available.
Yeah,
this might have been a similar process. Okay. I don't know, but I also think that I don't think there's any bad blood between the Rubins. So I would in the Carrillos, I would imagine that they probably had a little bit more information that it's like, hey, this is exactly what I'm using, and then they worked off of that.
Probably,
I would imagine,
because Alec Bradley cigars is probably a little bit of a hitter more than BS Cigar Company. So
I'm just saying,
I mean, they probably had given them more information.
I'm saying, I think I would hope that it was a more honest conversation between Ernesto and the Rubins, saying, hey, I got to focus on my stuff. You're going to be way behind. So I can't promise. I can't live up to my word. No hard feelings if you guys need to go somewhere else. That's the way I'd like to imagine this relationship transpired.
That's how we hope all relationships.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I would hope
definitely.
That's the case. What do you think, AJ? You said you like this cigar. I mean, what do you like about it? What do you got from it? So people can get from it.
You guys know I'm a marketing guy through and through. And the band, you've got this, and maybe this is a specific figure. I'm not 100% certain, but
I'll pull that back up too. I had that.
Did you have that? Okay. So, for those of you that haven't seen this cigar, it's a black and white, embossed. It's embossed too. Greek god, Roman god, Roman or Greek sculpture bust.
It's a headshot.
Yeah, it's a headshot basically. There's 4 gold flakes up on the top, and there's a gold. I don't know if it's a necklace or what.
It almost looks, the one on the bottom almost looks like Africa.
It was supposedly.
I'm actually super curious.
Famous bronze statue Perseus with the head of Medusa.
Oh, okay.
So this cigar just got way cooler. As someone,
so the gold at the bottom is probably her blood.
Yeah. As someone that likes Greek, Norse, Roman mythology, things like that. This
religion back in the day, they called it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not going to dive down that rabbit hole. Part 2.
That's not
religion
part 2.
and mythology. Let's go. Happy New Year.
This
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
this is a really cool
Exactly.
cigar. I also feel like it would stand out. A lot of other brands are running the traditional, here's our name, here's what we do.
Either red, white, blue, black.
Yeah. And these guys, they're not even putting their name on the front. It's not until you pull it out of the box, you turn it over, you see Alec and Bradley, and you see Gatekeeper in gold, that you realize who's doing it and what it is. So I feel like the marketing on it alone, once again, I'm that guy that's curiosity killed the cat. If I walk through, bless you,
Continue.
and if I walk through and I see, you done?
Maybe. Continue, I say.
If I walk through and I see this cigar and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh man, that looks awesome. This would be a smoke that you should be able to pick out among other cigars in your local shop.
Well, we had this on the shelf the last time you were in the tinderbox.
I'm pretty sure I asked you about it at that time.
No, you didn't.
No?
You wanted something because the tinderbox at Easton only carries this right now in the Toro.
Okay.
You didn't have enough time. You were asking for a shorter, smaller smoke, and so we set you up with the Petit Cazadores from Tatuaje.
Also incredibly delicious. But this cigar, I will say this.
It's like a Rain Man over here.
Now, you were really impressive.
Did
Now,
you just compliment yourself by
I
calling
wish my
yourself
wife
Rain Man?
got that.
now,
That comes with other connotations.
I don't know if it was because we were drinking beer, pouring whiskey, or what, but it seemed like it was difficult to get lit. But once it's lit, it draws super smooth. The flavor profile, I would say it's a medium, maybe a medium full for me anyways.
Definitely medium plus.
But it's not overpowering. And I know a lot of guys, I know the pepper taste can be polarizing. I don't get any pepper out of this cigar. I get just straight smooth.
Did you retrohale it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll be coughing up a lung.
You don't inhale it to.
Here's the thing: when you're talking about that on the shelf in the tinderbox, it's what do you got there? Gatekeeper?
RP90.
Not fair. So the thing is on our shelves. So those that have not been in tinderbox at Easton, it's black bins.
Yeah.
So you don't have the box. It doesn't stand out against these bright other boxes where this would stand out it comes in a black box.
Yeah.
20 count. You
very basic.
Slide top.
24 count.
24 count. Slide top. You put the top in the it would stand out. This is unfortunately muted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
On the shelves because you got this sitting next to Kintsugi, which is that bright blue and gold and all this white. So this is a little bit. All you see is
the bust.
Is Medusa on there. You wouldn't know it's Alec Bradley. You wouldn't know anything other than that because if you look at just from the top angle there, that's all that's showing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So it's good marketing.
Well,
you can branch off the good marketing. To me, it's subtle marketing on the cigar band itself. The box is also fairly subtle.
Yeah.
Some of the print advertisement, or the more important, in my opinion, is the stuff you see that when they were boasting this on a lot of like the websites. Very cool advertising.
Yeah.
Just black. You know what I mean? It's like black and then this and the gold. And it's like that stands out against like a white background of a web page or on your flipping pages of Aficionado or Snob or whatever else.
Okay.
Well, I think also, and this would be speculation. So when Alec and Bradley decided to, start doing their own cigars, their dad, Alan, made them, they said, you're responsible for finding someone to work with, coming up with test blends, choosing a blend, choosing the marketing, the band, the name. You're responsible for all that. You even got to put up your own money. Alec Bradley will do the distribution side of it, but he made them, responsible for that whole project.
Made them earn their way.
Yes. So I think with this, and this was the second cigar that they released.
Correct. Blind Faith accordingly was Blind Faith.
Because it doesn't say Alec Bradley or Alec and Bradley. You don't necessarily, I mean, it could be where they're just trying to go off that marketing and not banking on the family name to try and sell it until you actually get it in your hand and look at it.
I see what you're saying, and I like the story and like the conversation with Alan and Alec and Ryan and all this. It's to most consumers, I believe this is still an Alec Bradley cigar. At the end of the day, drink. It's an Alec Bradley cigar. I think time will tell when Alan hands the reins off to Alec and Bradley. They will probably switch it back to all of their efforts would be Alec Bradley. That's the name. This is a project.
Yeah.
So,
but I like this because you look 10, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, the father is already setting their sons up for
That's
success
exactly
when they end up taking over.
setting them up for an opportunity of success.
Yes.
Yeah.
He made them work.
Yeah. By forcing them to listen, this project is your baby. Whether it fails or succeeds is on you. And in turn, those guys are going to learn all of those business aspects by doing this project of Alec and Bradley, so that then, hopefully, fingers crossed, if and when they take over, we're not even skipping a beat. It's like nothing's changed, know? So I'm excited for the future of this family company as a whole, basically.
I would agree. So,
talk to me.
I just tagged Alan Rubin. He's the only one I think that can get on here on the feed. Who knows if he'll chime in? But welcome, Shannon. So let's do the reviews here, right? Let's round out part one.
So we already did the beer. We already did the beer with the whiskey. So we need
whiskey,
cigars.
We need the whiskey by itself,
right?
The cigar,
right?
Here if I can get the
and then the pairing of those two.
I like it.
So it's up on the screen there.
Nate, you drank first. So you're
AJ,
going first.
In order, you can see it there.
You're the guest.
So
all right. Oh, I can actually see that. Wow, that's really clear.
Pull it up, old man. So 10 being the best. Yeah. So the whiskey, we've got the Knob Creek 9-year bourbon, which is kind of their staple bourbon, right? Nate, you said this comes in the state of Ohio at $39.99.
$39.99. Same price as this bottle of beer.
Now, I'm probably going to be generous simply because of the fact that I had such a distaste going into it, or
I think that's an interesting aspect
from memory, or
yeah.
Well, now I'm kind of mad at myself. Now I'm trying to figure out why I avoided it for so long. I will say this. It has a little bit of a burn. It's clearly not a...
Don't forget, this is coming in at 100 proof.
True. But it's clearly not a 12, 15-year, bourbon that has just this crazy depth and things like that. It's a good bourbon. I'm gonna, let's see, $39.99. I'm gonna place this bourbon on my scale at I'm in between. We'll call it a 7.7.
So torn.
Well, we'll call it a 7.7 because honestly, I was gonna go 7.6 or 7.8. We'll call it a 7.7, even though I don't like odd numbers. It's a thing, okay?
It's not a prime number.
So I'm at a 7.7. Bourbon by itself, 7.7.
Cigar.
And the cigar out of 10.
Cigar out of 10. Oh, we're going all the way through it.
See that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you could read there.
I wasn't sure if we were all right. Anyways.
You've been on this show before.
God, I hate you guys. Cigar by itself,
Happy New Year,
I'll go a little bit higher.
Let's go.
Going a little bit higher, taking a little bit.
Don't make it weird.
No, never. Cigar by itself, I'll do an 8.2. And to wrap it up, a little bit there.
Cannonball coming.
A little bit. I'm going 8.1. 8.1 on the pair. Solid pair. Could be a little bit better, but it's not one of those could be betters that I know automatically, okay, this would be better with XYZ.
Sure.
I just know this is a great pair. You're having some friends over, you're having some buddies over, you decide to share cigars and whiskey, and this ends up being
Get a little weird.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you rather have a different whiskey with this cigar or a different cigar with this whiskey?
Different whiskey with this cigar. That's where I'm at. But we still don't know what the price point is on this cigar. Steve?
This cigar, this is 11-ish.
Okay. So
Nate, you think? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember what it is on the shelf.
I think the tinderbox $12.50.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So depending on your tobacco
Average.
tax, yeah, I would say MSRP is around 11 something.
I mean,
Yeah.
For a Toro.
You're looking at the majority at 10 to 15
It's an average
bucks.
price,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that's a standard price. I would still say I would rather have a different whiskey with this cigar, but together I'm not mad at it. I would pay $40 for that Knob Creek. I would pay, $12.50 for the cigar. I think it's a solid pairing.
So the reason I had picked the Knob Creek when I was at the store the other day was because it's one of the 4 barrels used for this Goose Island Bourbon County beer or bourbon barrel aged stout.
Get it.
Why didn't you bring Booker's?
They didn't have Booker's where I was at.
Just Jesus.
But no, so that's the reason why I brought this Knob Creek. They also had the Knob Creek rye, which people who know me know I'd love a really good rye, but I picked the bourbon because this beer was aged in bourbon barrels, not rye barrels. So
Very fair.
For me, the whiskey, I'm going to give the whiskey a 7. It's enjoyable. It's not something I necessarily am going to go back to. I definitely want to try.
Pass that 7 rated bottle of bourbon.
I definitely want to try the rye and maybe the 12. I know the 18 year was very sought after because the liquor and wine store that my wife works at, they have an empty box on the shelf that the 18 year comes in, and they've literally had people come up and go, "You have the 18 year?" And they're like, "No, we just have the box as decoration."
That's deceiving.
It is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but with your rating, I would say this is a bottle that you buy, you take it to a get together, but you're not worried if it comes home with you.
That's fair.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
That's a fair.
Say that again.
So
take it to
you're going to a party, okay? There's going to be other bourbon drinkers there. You take it to the party, you bring it, everybody cracks into it. All of a sudden, you're leaving and you realize you left it. You're not heartbroken about it. That's a bottle that you're okay with leaving at a get together.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that thinks about this?
There is what I'm thinking of. Typical guy statement. You go to a party, you take something or someone with you, you leave, you realize you kind of left it there, and you're like, I'm good. I'm good.
It's fine.
Well, it's funny.
That's terrible, AJ.
No,
that is terrible.
No, wait, hold on.
That comparison.
What do you mean?
Hold on. It's funny AJ says
Shannon
that to
knew
me.
we were on the same page there listening to that. Like, I knew guys like that in college.
Yeah. It's funny AJ says that to me because I'm the guy that went to
it was a joke.
I know. But no, I one time went to a white elephant exchange where everyone was supposed to bring either a 6-pack of beer, a bottle of wine, or a bottle of whiskey. And they were going to do a white elephant exchange. I was the only person who took a bottle of whiskey.
Yep.
And it was not an expensive bottle whatsoever. And I'm looking at what everyone else brought. I pulled the bottle off the table. Like my wife.
Is anyone surprised that knows Nate? No,
I told my wife to go.
Everyone.
I told my wife to go up to the table and pull it back. And she walked up and she was, "Yeah,
your wife.
Well, it was a work party for her. She's like, "Yeah, my husband wants to take the bottle we brought back." And like, "Oh, what'd you bring?" And it was just a regular bottle, sub $30 bottle of bourbon. And the lady goes, "Oh yeah, that's definitely the nicest thing here." And so,
where are we at on your ratings?
So 7 on the whiskey.
Jesus Christ.
It's gonna be a long night. Wait till we
get
to the
part
topic.
2, man.
Wait till we get to the topic.
All right, 7 on the whiskey, 8 on the cigar. I definitely like the cigar more since it's been coming out of Plasencia. And then 7.5 on the pairing. I like that. The reason I asked AJ that question, I agree. I would rather drink a different whiskey with this cigar.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Now, you've been dogging us all night.
I have not. I've been.
Where are you at with your ratings? They're up on the screen if you need to reference them.
I've done it before. The whiskey. This is. I understand. That's why I kind of really honed in on what AJ was saying about not really enjoying Knob Creek or having this kind of, memory of what you thought it was.
Yeah.
I would say don't sleep on the fact that, this is as they say, a 9-year bottle for $40. That's impressive, I think, in this day and age. It's not the most complex. I go back to what I said earlier when Lou had asked us to rate the beer and the bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
The best this tasted. I think I stand by my statement that I thought this might be the case. The further away we got from that wonderful stout than to the whiskey, now we're on the whiskey completely. Nate's got a little bit left in his glass.
Hey, I was gonna say, for those of you that
I've been
watching,
savoring that.
this dude is milking the last sip of his beer.
So with the whiskey, I mean, I would think that as we've gotten into just the whiskey, for bringing in price, because I do that, I think you're at an 8. I think this is a solid $40 bottle in today's market. You're not going to get anything on the secondary, which thank God. This is a 9-year product. They're 30 years in. I want to dive. I said it earlier. I want to dive into the Knob Creek story a little bit further when we get one of the. I mean, because it's available. There's a lot of great bottles of Knob Creek out there, and they also make what we talked about. What on this tag? Booker's,
Booker's, Baker's, Basil Hayden.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not something to flinch at. You know what I
And
mean?
it's the same mash bill
Say the mash bill
as
again.
so 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. That is the exact same mash bill as Jim Beam. Jim Beam is a 4-year product. This is a 9.
So that's where I'm saying. I give it an 8. I got respect for it. I think it's a solid drink. It's not like going to be my nightcap. Not the smoothest. I think it's just that's some the solid whiskey right there.
I like this. Of all the times I've been on the show, I think this is the most diverse we've been in our ratings.
Probably.
And ultimately, the only thing I can say with the whiskey itself specifically, it's $40. You're gonna spend that on bourbon regardless. It's worth buying. Go buy a bottle, try it for yourself, figure it out, and you make a good point. It's a 9-year bourbon. I mean, I've seen other 9-year bourbons that are going for $80,
plus
$90.
Mind you, it's also 100 proof. So I mean, it's not like you're getting something that to those that like the barrel strength stuff. This is not the watered down version of it. My go-to now, I will say this. I'll compare this to real quick. My go-to kind of everyday drinker, where I'm not feeling guilty about the price tag, is like Old Forester 100, which you brought the Old Forester 86.
I brought 86 later.
But Old Forester 100. Old Forester 100 has got a lot more bite to it, a lot more heat, a lot more spice to it. This is sweeter. That's why I wanted to have the mash bill again. It's a little bit more that corn heavy, but it's not like corn water, like I talk about on the show a lot, where I don't like it when it just tastes like kind of like corn water. It doesn't have that. This has got a little bit more, but it's got a little bit of corn sweetness to it. The cigar, I'm with Nate on the whole fact that when I was holding it back, the fact is made by Plasencia. I don't know what they did to the blend. Going from EPC to Plasencia, this has gotten better for me. This is a solid Ecuadorian Habano wrapper cigar. You know what I mean? This, Nicaraguan. I'm sorry, what was it? Nicaraguan binder, Dominican Nicaraguan filler, I believe.
I think that's what you said.
Find out real quick.
But
well, and while Steve's looking that up,
no, I got it right here.
Okay,
he's on it, man. I love it.
My
Nicaraguan binder.
I learned so much when I come on the show.
I was giving my ratings.
Yes,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna kill time while you were looking that up. No, at Carfagna's, they have a wine that's finished in Basil Hayden barrels.
Nice,
which is coming out of the same distillery.
Exactly. But yeah, so this cigar, I'll give an 8.5. Again, average price cigar, 8.5 on the cigar. I think, again, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. I like that. Coming out of the Honduran factory of Plasencia, which I don't know, I think they obviously it's Plasencia family, so they utilize a lot of their tobacco all over the place. But big fan of that. I think it wasn't just the fact I know it's out of that. It was definitely a different smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against Ernesto Perez Carrillo. All the respect to him. but I will say that I really enjoyed that. So 8.5 on that. The pairing,
Come on.
I get what you guys are saying. I would also choose a different whiskey. The pairing between these two, I'll give it a 7.5. It's not bad. It's not great. This is average. There would be something else. This cigar right now, when I'm thinking, it would be great to have the Knob Creek Rye.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like,
I should have grabbed that bottle instead.
No. I was in your ear about it. Nate was at the store, and I had a picture of what AJ was bringing. I'm like, let's keep it with the bourbon barrels because we have this opportunity to sip on the beer, or else AJ won't bring it. So I figured let's go ahead with it. And here we are. But I think with this cigar, a nice, rye would be a little bit nicer. I mean, it's not, it's like that sweet, it's more that like kind of food spice. And
well, but you like the more peppery aspects, correct or incorrect?
Typically, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, it's all personal taste, it's personal flavor.
That's why I gave it a 7.5, because I think it goes well fine. It's just not like my favorite pairing.
Right.
So yeah, that's the ratings.
I'm more confused after the ratings than before the ratings.
Just let it happen, man.
Go buy the Gatekeeper from Alec and Bradley. Go buy Knob Creek 9
You're
year.
saying that the listeners have learned nothing from us tonight. We're all over the board. And
We've been all over the board.
Chaos. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for contributing on the Patreon page, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast, or Venmo for your one-time contributions at Bourbon and BS. I also want to thank Tinderbox at Easton for the Alec and Bradley Gatekeeper Toro. Overall positive on that one.
I've enjoyed all of this.
This one also came in. We're out of it at Tinderbox at Easton, but hopefully you guys can find it. It came in this Taste of the World, the chunk sampler, and the Gatekeeper came in a chunk along with Kintsugi, along with the Magic Toast, and a couple others. There was 8 cigars, I think, in there.
It was the original Black Market
chunk. So yeah, it was that kind of like the 4 by 60.
4 1/4 by 60.
They're all a little different. Like the new double broadleaf by Alec Bradley, which we're hoping to get on with Ryan Ponest. Hopefully in a couple weeks here, we're going to get Ryan Ponest from Alec Bradley, who's been on the show before, and I want to feature the double broadleaf as a new one from them. So that was a new one that's also available at the Tinderbox at Easton. Altadis USA, we're going to be lighting up the Monte Cristo Nicaragua series in part 2. So if you guys are listening to the live feed, we'll take a quick intermission, and then we'll go to that. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you click over to part 2 and check that out. BS Cigar Company Gold and Silver are available. And if you like the sweatshirts, if you're watching online, if you're listening to the audio, check it out. Buyjack.com, byjack.com/Bourbon and BS for all the swag for the show and also the BS Cigar Company. Love all the support, guys. Happy New Year. Cheers. We'll see you in part 2.
Cheers, guys.
We're going to talk about why bother.
Why bother?
It's going to be a long night.
It is 9.
Buckle up.
Buckle
up. You got to go home?
Yeah. My curfew was a half hour ago.
Streetlights were on at 6, bud.
Streetlight's been on earlier than that. Trust me, it's been messing up my hunting.
Oof.
Oh,
that beer was cool,
great.
Man.
That beer. Hey,
Shannon, you missed it, man. Oh yeah, finish his off.
Oh, he will be pissed.
I don't care.
I'll twist his arm because, dude, it is molasses, vanilla, caramel.
This is a stout by Goose Island that they did a combination of 36% Booker's bourbon barrels, 33% Knob Creek, 17% Basil Hayden, and 14 Baker's.
Dude,
that's really cool.
Honestly, just tilt it back. You can probably get a taste out of it. I mean, it is honestly for me, that was the highlight.
I got a drop, so y'all smashed it.
Oh, I mean, it's one little thing.
It was a 16.9. I think each of us got like 4 or 5 ounces. You can't.
Well, it's still available in some areas.
It is still available. I don't think it's on OHLQ. You have to go to like you have to go to certain bottle shops and just kind of look around. If I see it, I'll buy one for you. And whether we're splitting it or you're just buying it from me or whatever, dude, it is. Like I said, we should guilt trip Nate into giving you the last sip.
Didn't take much. So, mind you, this is what all those percentages I said. A little bit of Nate Hale backwash.
Dude, I'm impressed that you held that for that. I was downing it. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Solid, right?
Dude.
That's fucking good. He said.
I'm a huge fan of that Kentucky Bourbon barrel.
So I brought that up.
Now,
That's that times 10.
you ready for his expression?
No, keep that glass on the table. There's no more of the beers, so why
Yeah,
need the
keep that.
glass?
That's a limited edition. If you notice what that glass is,
I want it to break. That's why I was.
No.
I'm down to 2 out of 5 or 6.
Little
Or
cold.
My ears.
put it on the driveway. It's
Now,
fine.
are you ready for his facial expression? It's only $40 for a bottle. $39.99.
That was my next question.
These are the same price.
These are the same price.
It's 160 for a 4-pack. That's the good news.
That wasn't cool.
Get something on the road.
Doesn't come in a 4-pack.
Yeah.
It comes in that box down there. That's at the end of the table. It's a very cool product. 30-year anniversary.
All right.
Very cool.
I'm sharing.
So it's a limited run.
Oh, for sure.
Instagram or no, that's YouTube.
Oh, that is-
Dude, it is, and it sits in a good way. It's like it gives you that sweet reminder that you just had
For sure.
a 30th
So I think
anniversary.
I'd buy 2, drink 1, and sit 1 out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
No,
It's like a lot of people
yeah.
may not crack it. They're just gonna like buy it and sit on behind their bar. And so that's a shame if you're never gonna drink it. Like just drink it, wash out the bottle, put it behind there, and make it a good night. You know what I mean? Share it with some friends, or make it a good night to drink it. Then you have the memory, and you got to enjoy it.
It's tasty.
It's nice, right?
That was super solid.
So I think what's also cool about doing these 2 drinks together. So the beer is the 30th anniversary. And AJ said, and it also says on the label, came out in 2022. So when did it start?
92.
92. When did Knob Creek start?
Oh,
Now you do it in the intermission, man. Like,
You're gonna have to bring that up when we go back on. That
deep thoughts with Nate Hale while peeing.
math is hard, I'll tell you.
He's sitting there peeing. He's like,
Wait a
Eureka!
second. Yeah,
The
the
math is math.
the elevator went all the way to the top. The light
30
bulb is
years.
on.
There's gonna be like a magic marker in the bathroom, like he's written on the wall, like,
on the wall.
like
On the mirror.
Goodwill Hunting over here. Like, you know, it's
He's
just,
like, it took people 5 years to solve that problem.
Matt
I did it while I was
Seriously.
drunk one night in the basement. Like, shit.
But I mean, you mentioned it. That means that a third, right?
Yeah, 33%.
A third of this beer was aged in the original
no.
Knob Creek barrel.
I doubt that.
No.
If it's a 30, well, okay, that's
No,
fine.
it's
That's
not. No,
fair.
not
All
30.
right. My
They
math is
took
not
it.
mathing.
No.
Math is not math, right?
Yeah, if you go take a piss inside, you can just go off the whiteboard.
Yeah, I'll
and
just read the
everything.
whiteboard.
You guys ready to do part 2 or what?
Dude,
Yes.
send it. I'm sharing right now. Also, I'm gonna get very.
Just wait
God
for
damn
some
it.
silence.
Why
I was trying to-
bother? Why
I
bother?
know, but I gotta
Dude.
I got a piece of support. I gotta split the audio, so that's why I was doing a little
Shut up.
silence.
Oh.
Do your social media and welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. This is episode 252, part 2, Beyond the BS. We're still here in the garage with AJ Kazmierczak. We've had some beer, we've had some whiskey, and now we're going to talk about, and apparently math. Poor Tony's inside going nuts. Topic tonight for part 2 is why bother? So I was talking to AJ about this. You know, this is the first episode with the new year. So this is 2023, January 4th. What's left of it's 9:30 right now p.m. in Eastern Standard. Why bother? Because we were talking about this whole like new year, new you. It's it's the new beginnings thing. It's, everything we were leading up to. We talked about the holidays for weeks towards the end, whether it be Thanksgiving, we talked about Christmas, we talked about like whatever you celebrate, Hanukkah. It's like, as the year was ending, we were ready for the new year last week with Rob Wilson from Rocky Patel and Jake Sanders from Crowned Heads. And so, AJ threw over a couple of topics. He'd been on the show before. I hope you guys have checked him out before. But, it was, we've done all the new year stuff. So we were kind of framing it. I was talking to you, I don't know, 5 hours ago.
Yeah, we
kicked it
chatted
back and forth. Yeah. But I'm just, it's like, it's what
it's one of those things. I like how you pointed at me, like AJ will figure it out.
Well, I was driving. I was
No,
occupied.
it's one of those things every year, right? We go into January and everybody's like, this is my year. This is where I'm going to shine. This is blah, blah, blah. And then 2 weeks into it, you quit your dry month. 2 weeks into it, you go back to your old habits. 2 weeks into it, you are eating, McDonald's cheeseburgers and fries and whatever. And it's Steve and I were talking, and both of us, I feel, take pride in the fitness aspect of life and things like that. And it's one of those things where we were chatting back and forth, and the commonality of it is, why bother? If you're just going to quit 2 weeks down the road, why bother? And, when we were tossing this around and Steve called me today and we were chatting, why bother is a really good topic for what's to come in the podcast, because there's 1,000 reasons to quote unquote, why bother?
Well, we had kind of gone into like a couple. I had suggested a few other things before that. This was the most vague one. It was like, new beginnings, like, what are you going to do about it? Like all that stuff. You had talked about branding. You had talked about some other things, and it was just like, it got down to it with the new year, new you. It was all this stuff. It's like, are you really going to do it type thing? You know what I mean? And like, that was the whole thing. You had talked about some of the more like right now current events and all this stuff, and people like speaking out about that.
I have no problem talking about
I know you
that.
don't, but it's like, it's the same type mentality. Like whatever you're going to get into, whatever you're going to commit to, it's like, why bother if you're not going to do it? If you're not really going to like get into it, figure out, like come up with a plan rather than just shooting from the hip, which a lot of people are doing right now. So like, why is it a stereotype that it's like the gyms are busy right now? Why is it a stereotype that you're going to eat healthier right now? Why is it a stereotype that you're going to like, this is the year I'm going to get my job, my career, and everything else together? I can appreciate, we've talked about it on the show before, of like utilizing a calendar date for a reminder or a reset. But where this came down with our conversation, AJ, was why even bother with this if you're just going to fuck it up? Like the dry January you brought up, right? And I can appreciate that. I sent out a post to both of you guys and a couple other people on Instagram, and it was just like, it was a joke about someone wants to do a dry January with you. I can appreciate people taking a reset and all that stuff. Now I'm hearing from some people like, I'm going to see how far in a dry January I can go. And I'm like, why even fucking bother if you don't think you're going to make it? You know what I mean? It's that mentality to your point, AJ. It's like, what are you like? Why even like, I don't even listen to this. Dry January. Well, I'm going to see, I got a bet with a buddy of who can go the longest in January without having a drink. I'm like, that's not a dry January. That's just like, who's going to drink? Who's going to flinch first?
Right.
Like,
Well, that's a game of chicken.
Yeah. What's the fucking point?
And this brings it. I'm so glad we picked this topic. I was a little worried about this topic at first, but I am so glad that we picked this topic because of the fact that it is intentionally vague so that you can kind of take it how you wanted to. Because when you mentioned why bother to me, I took it as, what's your reasoning?
Sure.
Why bother? To your point, right? Your buddies, they're like, who flinches first in January? Yeah. You're already setting yourself up for failure because you're already assuming that neither one of you can hold out through the month of January. Then all of a sudden you couple that with why bother. And when you mentioned that to me on the phone, the first thing that popped into my mind is a single question. And that question is, are you happy with where you're at right now? It doesn't matter if it's fitness. It doesn't matter if it's nutrition. It doesn't matter if it's work related. Are you happy with where you're at right now? And then you look at the whole why bother aspect. I mean, let's be honest, 70-80% of people are going to call it quits in January.
For what?
Yeah.
For working out or dry
like,
January.
You're talking about just like health.
Just in general,
health
whatever
goals.
they set for their January goals,
Anything.
whatever it is, right?
I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m.
Here's my New Year's resolution, right? They're gonna end up giving up on it for honestly a stupid reason, because I've been there too. I'm, every now and then I still battle it and stuff like that. And then we look at the why bother aspect. You have to figure out your why. Why are you doing this? Are you happy with where you're at? I work in depth with a company called First Form Outdoors. It's an extension of First Form, which is a supplement company. And
that was a huge land for you.
They're amazing individuals.
Yep.
We can talk about that later. But Jake, the founder of First Form Outdoors, his whole thing is, I want you to stick around long enough to see more stuff happen. I want you to be able to be a part of it. If we're hiking in, and this is where First Form Outdoors stems from, if we're hiking in to go hunt elk and it's 3 miles in, 5 miles in, I don't want my dad or my grandfather or you not able to get in. I at the trailhead, I'll wait here. You guys go ahead. I'll make my way there, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why bother? We want you around. We want you to experience stuff. The why bother is what is driving you. It's one of those things that the why bother resonates with me because of the fact that you have to have a reason why. That's what's going to drive your reason to do your January goals, your year goals, things along those lines. And it just, the why bother aspect is so interesting because of the fact that so many people are going to just quit 2 weeks in, and the why bother is what keeps you going.
But I don't think a lot of people who start something, whether it be in January or any other time of the year, I don't think a lot of people, when they initially set a goal and start something, they don't see themselves as quitting or failing at it. I think that's the reason why they started.
Okay.
Explain that again. Roll that back here. Shannon's grabbing a mic here. I think here we go. But,
So,
explain what you're saying there.
I think the reason
a lot of people don't start something.
I think the reason why people do start something, they want to, but when you say why bother, they don't see themselves as quitting doing that. That's why they start. Like if
okay, fair point. So they get into
people,
it. They're under the impression later. Some people say under the illusion that they're going to actually do it, but odds are against a lot of situations that they will eventually fail.
Well, like
they don't have that mindset of like, why would I bother doing this?
Because, like a lot of people that start working out in January, they don't sit there and plan that come February they're going to quit. Even though a lot of people, by the time February comes around, they do drop out of the gym.
You think a grown man or woman goes into the January after a life of leading up to this, whether they've had successes with again, health, like you're saying, working out, career-wise, mental thing, or whatever, I'm going to go do this, that they really think that all it takes is the New Year's resolution that this is going to be it. I think that's a self-realization thing. I think that is a self-assessment thing that they need to really dive into. What have you done successfully committing to a lifestyle change before January 1st of 2023?
I don't necessarily.
I agree with you that a lot of people don't think that way, but I think that's the topic for me is why bother if you're just going to handle it as you handled everything else in life that got you to that point.
Well, I think from at least,
not saying that everyone's failing. I'm saying that like from whatever the issue is, like, why did you fail so far? Why is this on your radar of change?
I'll speak to the fitness and the career side. So I think a lot of the people that start the fitness journey in January, like they start it for a reason because they're unhappy with their physical condition. And so they want to do something to better it. And during those first few weeks, there may be an issue where, say they don't have proper form, they don't have proper training, they try too hard right away, and maybe they get an injury and they can't keep it going the way they want to, and so they see that as a failure and go, "Oh, this isn't for me."
I think more often
And that triggers the stop.
I think more often with a lot of things, whether it be what you're talking about, the fitness journey, which we can talk about. I know some people don't like to hear all that stuff, or career or whatever it might be. They see their first steps of progress, and then they take a break. That's
I earned this cheat meal. I earned this couple of days off. I earned
or they
this
burn
trip.
themselves out. It's unrealistic goals. When I say why bother on that, it's like it's unrealistic goals. It's like, all right, normally you get up at whatever, let's call it like 8 o'clock, whatever. And they listen to a podcast and they're like, yeah, man, I go to bed at this time, or like all those like memes, you be more successful. I read it at the shop the other night where it was like, anyone in their 20s, they need to read this. And I was like reading these like 14 things. Remember that with Jake?
Oh
there?
gosh, that was
And I'm like,
hilarious.
so it was like, you got to do this. You got to be by yourself. You got to do this. And also you have to surround yourself with people. I'm like, how do you surround yourself with people? You're fucking waking up at 6 a.m. and then you don't talk to anyone. Like that was step 3. And now step 14 is you got to surround yourself with good people. I'm like,
So
this is like a fucking trap because you can't physically do this.
You're talking about contradicting yourself, basically.
I think it's unrealistic goals sometimes is like when you say like you want to do something.
Okay.
First of all, like you said, find your why. Why do you want to wake up at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever it is to go to the gym? Well, because someone super successful said that's what they do. It's like, cool. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg does that. He also is in bed at 7 p.m. Does your lifestyle fit the entire picture?
He also lifts with gloves on, and I'll take you over him.
And now he's also a multimillionaire that he has a gym in his place, and you know what I mean? And he has a chef cooking all his meals, and it's like, yeah, that's great. I'm not saying that is a great lifestyle. Be a multimillionaire, but it's like, I don't want to in this part too, I don't want to discourage anyone. It's the fact that is it realistic? Is it building blocks or is it a hard reset? And there's no right answer with that. Who are you? Or do you respond better to a hard reset, or do you respond better to I need to build up to something? And I'm not even saying being unrealistic with that. It's like, well, I'm going to stop eating bread this year. It's like, no, you're not, because you're going to eat bread at some point. You're like, well, I failed. I went to the Olive Garden because my grandma wanted to go there. Taco Tuesday. It's like, well, I had a taco shell. It wasn't really bread. It was like, all right, whatever.
It was corn.
Shannon, you turn him on.
I was gonna say. So we got Shannon in the garage, and he's had the mic since Steve's been talking. Shannon, what do you got for us?
I was going to piggyback on all that about why I think people fail. I believe most of it, probably 75% or more, is poor planning. They don't have a game plan. They get up every day, but I'm just going to hit the gym without a plan.
Hold that mic a
gym.
little closer to your mouth.
They don't have a game plan at the gym. They don't have a system. They don't have their meals in prepped or whatever it's going to be. So if you don't plan your day, and it is not even with fitness, but everything in life, if your job, if you're not getting up, if you're not getting to sleep, and you want to try to excel at your job, you're going to have to put in the time, the effort, show up a little early, maybe stay a little late. I know the youngins don't like to do that, but you have to plan. You have to have an absolute plan in place to follow the steps. Because if you willy-nilly it, that gives you the room to, I'll skip a day. I'll eat this. I'll get to it tomorrow. Tomorrow shows up. I'll sleep in. Oh, I'm too tired after work. So if you don't have that game plan and follow it, you're setting yourself up for failure no matter what.
Write it down.
I was gonna say that was actually a really good excerpt.
You say that like you're surprised Shannon dropped a little bit of wisdom.
No, every time I've been in the garage, Shannon always has good wisdom to share. But no, I mean that's a great point. If you're going into the year, if you're going into January, you're going into February, and you're like, I'll get up, I'll go do some stuff at the gym, or I'll get up, I'll try not to eat bread, or I'll try to do keto or stuff like that. You need to write your stuff down. You need to have a plan. You need to know, okay, on Monday I'm doing this, on Tuesday I'm doing that, on Wednesday I'm doing this. Otherwise, you're already behind the 8 ball. You're already setting yourself up for failure. You're giving yourself an out. You're giving yourself an excuse to, this bad, I got an fender bender today, so I decided to go to the local bar and drink, or whatever it may be. You need to have these goals in physical form, so that way it forces you to stay on track. And, kind of to piggyback, but also side skirt, we discussed why bother. I feel like one of the things we need to discuss is the fact that it has never in the history been, it has never in the history been easier to be successful, because of the fact that we have so many people that don't want to do anything. Everybody talks about it, right? Everybody talks about how we've got help wanted signs everywhere. We've got, people hiring all over the place. We've got different things along those lines. And the why bother is, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to whoever is your why to be successful, to leave a legacy. What kind of legacy are you going to end up leaving when you're gone? And that, I feel like, ties right in with the whole why bother aspect. Just from the standpoint of, why bother? Because of the fact that other people aren't doing it.
Well, I think that goes back to your whole thing of the find your why, because you say that, yeah, you have opportunity to succeed. I mean, you do and you don't. I mean, this is why I always bring up the fact that it's linear history for you and your family and your, wherever you come from. So it's not always easy. In the U.S., it's shorter history for the current step. I'm not trying to get down into like Native Americans and stuff like that. I just think that, you bring over the rest of the world, there's a lot more, documented history that you've gotten to the place you are because of your generations before you personally.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say, like, there is a lot of opportunity to succeed. There's a lot of obstacles depending on who you are, where you are, and what your upbringing was, and where you came from. I go to the whole thing. Why bother? The more we talk about this is going back to find your why. What do you want? You know what I mean? We're talking about some surface level shit. Like, I mean, it's not less important, but it's like you start a fitness journey. Well, if you're not putting food on the table, like, you're not really starting a fitness journey this year. I got to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, if you're struggling to pay bills and you're struggling to put a roof over your head, let alone other people's heads, a gym membership should be last on your list at the moment. All right. I mean, like, let's be fair. I mean, I get it, but there is a long-term plan. It's all about the steps that go into it. You find your why. Why bother is, what's the reason? That's not what we came up with this topic when we were talking about this, but that's what I'm hearing from the conversation is why bother? Figure that out. What is the bother? What is the reason? Why do you want to do what you want to do? Get a better job. Like, yes, AJ, to your point, yes, there are opportunities out there. Get out and get after it. If you have things that are holding you back in a way that they're just responsibilities, I'm not even saying negative. You have kids, you're a single mom, single dad, you have, you lost your job, all that stuff is like, you have to take these steps in stride the best you can. There's always going to be adversity, no matter where you're at.
No. I agree with you 100%. Figure out what your why is. I would
feel like there's a but coming here.
No. There's no but. No, there's no but.
Yet.
The facts of the matter is, myself, Nate, Steve, we're all from different generations. Yes or no?
I mean, generations is a little aggressive.
I think Steve and I are the same.
Well, you guys
are only
are
3 years apart.
I'm in a different generation.
All right, you're not 14. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Shannon's the old one.
But But the whole aspect of why bother, do it because other people aren't.
So I think that's a good mindset. That is like, that's great.
Yeah.
There's opportunity. I see where you're going with this.
Okay.
I was just trying to frame it is that it's not just as simple as sometimes we make it in this format is fitness and stuff like that. It's
Right.
like, yeah, that'd be great. I think there is benefit to be healthy, but if you don't have the budget to, put beef on the table,
Yeah.
you're living off of boxed pastas and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like
Which
that's,
I mean, let's all be honest. It's a lot harder now putting chicken on the
Sure.
table, putting
Sure.
beef on the table.
Sure.
The things that are going to help your goals. I understand that that's different.
but I think you keep that again. I love what has been said here with like writing, like, again, like just I'm not saying like do a full blown flow chart, but it's like get what your goals are, go use the new year if you have to. That's why we brought up this topic, but use that new year as what are the goals for this year and the 5-year. What's the classic interview question? What's your 5-year plan?
Where do you see yourself in
Where do you
5
see
years?
yourself in 5 years? Hopefully it's, I can steadily put food on the table and then work back from that. I think some people just assume that food's going to be on the table. And there's other people that hopefully are listening to the podcast at some point is they stumble across this part too. It's like, yeah, you may not be able, like you're struggling to put food on the table, pay bills. The water's about to be shut off. You're in a bad situation. Let's fix it. How do we do that? To your point, AJ, contrary to a lot of what's going on in this country is that just imagine no one else is going to do it for you.
Right.
Now it's, how do I pay my water bill? How do I, keep the mortgage or rent going? How do I not lose my housing? How do I put food on the table? No matter if it's a, filet mignon or it's a pastaroni that I just had to put like half a stick of butter into. They were fantastic.
Listen, Paula Dean had something going with the
you
butter.
brought that up. She said some things. I think she got canceled. I don't know.
But she's the butter lady, so we had to mention
She
her.
was the butter lady.
Well, let me ask you this.
R.I.P. I don't know if she's still alive.
I think so.
She's still
Nate,
kicking.
go.
Sounds
She's
like
not on TV anymore.
It
Yeah.
almost sounds
I
like
got a YouTube channel.
that reminds me of Ryan one time in the shop. He's like, we mentioned someone. He's like, yeah, R.I.P. And we all looked at him. He's like, no, he's not dead. Just R.I.P. And we're like, what the fuck?
Because the career is dead.
No, it was someone else. It was someone else we were talking about. We're like,
I hope they sleep at night. No,
Yeah.
rest in peace does not mean a good night's sleep.
no. Do you think it's better to start something and not see it through either because of failure or because you stopped versus never starting?
Oh, that's a good question.
Ooh.
Shannon, you want to take that, or you had something else to say?
I was going to go different route, but we'll go with that. Go with that. Go with that.
All right. I'll.
AJ, what do you think?
So just
Don't start something or start something and fail.
so
Man,
because of the that was
this is
good.
like
That was good.
It's like an icebreaker.
So-
you know what I mean? Like, all right, well, welcome everyone. Like, you guys are all new here. Welcome to the
Hey.
Bourbon and BS Corporation. We'd like to just say your name and then answer this question.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, I'm AJ.
Hello, I'm AJ. Stand up. Come on. Don't be shy.
No, I mean, let's be honest. In some capacity, we've all been in each of those situations, correct?
Yeah.
Very, very fair.
I'll be honest, yeah.
I feel, and this is just personal experience, I would rather start something and fail than not start something at all. And the reason behind that is I know for a fact if I start something and fail, I immediately have that regret. Like, I could have done this. Why did I stop this? I could have done this, which then, now granted, everybody's framework is
You're
different.
saying you have regret if you started something and failed.
Well, not.
No, I
what
think
is
he
that?
said he
It's not
would
regret,
rather.
It's I would regret if I didn't start it.
Sure.
If I fail, I feel guilt. That's what I'm getting at.
Ooh.
Because of the fact that
Ah.
I start something, I fail, I feel the guilt because I feel like I could have completed this.
But what if the reason you failed are from factors not under your control?
I still feel like I need to go back to this
I like that.
and then finish what I started. Now, granted, I
So
understand.
learn from it is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Learn from why you failed and start again.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody's framework is different, but this is just how my mind is wired. So the way my mind is wired is I start something, I fail, I look back, whether it's guilt or whether it's, I'm upset or whatever, I look back and I realize, dude, you had this. If it's
So why did you fail?
yeah, and then I break down why I failed, and then I'm like, you know what? I need to do this again. I know I can finish this, whatever it may be, fitness, health, work, secondary aspects, whatever it is, I feel like I can do this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get that fire again, and I'm like, you know what? Nothing is going to come in my way. I am going to finish what I started, even if I have to start from the beginning.
Get knocked down and get up.
And then I tackle it, and then I go from there. Now, if I never start it, well, I never start it. Maybe I'll do it next year. That's just the way my mind is wired.
Which is easier to restart? If you're the reason you failed, or if an outside factor was the reason you failed?
So Shannon has something valuable to add.
No, go ahead. No, answer the question. Answer the question.
And I'm going to
Answer
finish
the
this,
question.
Regardless, if it was my own stupidity, right? I'm not drinking for X amount of days. I have a bad day at work. Daggone it. I'm going to the bar. I have a couple beers. That very next day is completely spent with, did you seriously just throw all of that away for two Coors Lights or whatever it is?
He didn't. Coors Light, Coors Banquet, maybe.
Watch your mouth.
I'm just saying, AJ is also one that has not been on the podcast before because he was doing the 70-day hard, 75-day hard,
which I will be starting on Monday.
Well, thank God you didn't do it during this week.
So. I know. We've had him on the podcast twice where he's been in the middle of it and couldn't drink.
Marty and a bad influence. Shannon, what do you got on that, man?
So I'll give you a real world example for me. So 2016, I was actually starting to think about becoming a barber. And I let
also check out the episodes especially the one that he was on telling his story. That was fucking phenomenal. So Nate's checking the archives.
As I was thinking about it and really wanting to do it, I let all my fears take over. I had some obstacles in the way that I was afraid to tackle, and I let it go. So it took me till I think beginning of 2018 where I revisited those feelings again. Like I still wanted to be a barber. I was done with truck driving. So I stepped up. I tackled all those obstacles. I beat it down. Then I got into barber school at the beginning of 2019. But in the beginning, I let all those fears hold me back of, man, if I do it, am I going to have a better life? Am I going to give up all this that I have?
What was the answer
to
that question? At that time,
when I finally really dug into it, sat with myself and thought about the pros and cons of leaving one career, starting another, the freedom that barbering would give me, even if I wouldn't have made the money I make now, would still give me a better life than what I was doing trucking. I was done with trucking. I did it for 26, 27 years. You know what I mean?
To the rest of us, I still think that there is this underlying, I don't know the answer.
Maybe I'm not quite understanding what.
No, I think you hope it would give you that, like that freedom and everything else, but like that sense of security. I think that's what people really struggle with.
That was my biggest part.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
don't know what's on the other side of that door.
It's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, I mean,
but you took that gamble.
So I took the gamble. Me and my wife came up with a game plan. We sold our house. I sold all my vehicles. I sold a bunch of shit. And we basically went back to square one and lived a very subdued life to what we had.
Sure.
But we actually had more fun. We had more time with each other. School was amazing. It sucked, but it was amazing at the same time. Then I started my career February of 2020.
Good times.
It's good timing. I mean, I feel
Good
like
timing.
I was
again,
literally-
planning might have been a little bit better if you would have had the foresight.
Yeah, if only you knew there was going to be a global
like if you would've-
shutdown.
Red.
Hindsight's 2020.
Oh
If
my
you
God.
would have
Oh.
included, going back, if you could do it all over again, you would have read more medical journals.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, as a barber.
But I was in the shop literally 4 weeks and 1 day before everything got shut down. I just literally started my career, and I was like, "Well, fuck, this was bad."
Yeah.
Now-
And then
sorry,
all my
I do
trucking
my own
buddies-
hair. I would have hired you, but I
Well,
do
then
my own
all my
hair.
trucking
Looks
buddies
great,
were still
Steve.
working.
Thanks.
Everybody was driving. I drove trucks.
Oh yeah, it
still
got
were
even
working. I was
more.
like,
It got
well,
even more important.
I was like, "What the fuck did I just do?" But I took those 2 months off, honed my skills the best I could before I went back to the barbershop, and launched my career from the day we went back, and it's been gangbusters since.
It's so cool to see.
You
your story,
worked.
too.
You act during the off time. You still put in the effort to develop your craft.
Oh, 100%.
You didn't just sit at home for 2 months and do nothing and then go back into the barbershop.
Yeah, I had little mannequins I could cut hair. Then I won't tell the rest of what I did, but
Man,
Yeah.
do mannequins grow hair?
She was a nice lady.
No, we
The
had-
ones
I had a
he
couple.
the ones he worked on did.
Now, but
More of the mannequins I've seen look more like me.
Oh no, but now they're starting to do mannequins that
From
look
the
more.
neck up. I'm not saying
Oh,
anything like that.
no, now they're starting to do mannequins. They're
They're
starting to do mannequins that look more like me and Shannon.
yeah.
now, but
talking about the hair.
it kind of you kind of alluded to it. But if we could put why bother with a little tab underneath, dude, you went all in. So
100%.
so in terms of like the why bother aspect, you figure out the why, like Steve was talking
Yep.
about. You figure out the why, but then you have to realize at some point you have to commit to whatever it is fully 110%. Had you half-assed barbering, dude, you would have been back trucking 6 months later.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
there-
Well,
I was going to ask, during those 2 months that you were out of work from the barbershop, was there ever that thought in your head to actually go back into trucking?
no.
Why?
I knew the path I was on was right. I knew exactly where I was, even though it was a shitty 2 months. The 4 weeks I worked before we got shut down, I made enough money in those 4 weeks to pay all of our bills up and then some in 4 weeks. And I knew I was on the right path, and that was just the beginning. And I was still a shitty barber at that point. You know what I mean? I was fresh out of school. You don't know shit. You're still learning.
Yeah.
But I just knew in my heart of hearts that I was where I was supposed to be. This is just a blip. I got to get through it. I can't get discouraged. Everybody's going through it. I'm not the only one going through it. You know what I mean? So I took it as a challenge and I stepped up to it. And
So
now, I was in the middle of barber school, and I had a guy I knew that owned a big trucking company here in town, and he knew who I was when he came in to get his haircut at the barber school. And my buddy was cutting him, and I was standing there, and he's like, "You're Chappie, right?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh fuck, here we go." He's like, I know all about you. I know your driving career with so and so, this and that. He's like, "I could really use a driver like you on my squad." I was like, "Man, that's not really my life anymore." He's like, "Well, I'll pay you this amount of money." Now you got to think, I'm in barber school. I have no money.
Yeah.
I'm not making money.
Yeah.
And he's offering me like $35 an hour to drive a fucking brand new truck. Like right now, I could leave that school, walk into it. And he literally made me stop and think that day. Like, am I right?
so
It's an outside temptation.
But this is oh man, this is a great conversation. But we go into the why bother. We go into the fact that ultimately why bother also translates to you've got to have full belief.
Mhm.
You got to go in 110%. You were in the middle of school, got offered a job while at the school, and said, "Nope, I believe in what I'm doing. I know I'm on the right path," and you stuck through it. And now we're 2-3 years later, and you're on the other side of it.
Mhm.
Was it worth it?
100%. So, I mean, there's like we'll talk about it later. But the goal I set at the beginning of January with me and my wife literally starts in 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
we
He's
created
leaving us.
we created a goal in January of 2022 to be full-time RVing by 2023, and we leave the weekend of the 18th of February.
Shannon will be remote with us.
Yeah.
In
6
the-
weeks.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah.
You're gonna be barbering on the road.
Yeah, me and my wife bought a big 40-foot diesel pusher Class A. We sold everything we owned. We're gone.
Oh, dude, I love
The
it.
roaming barber.
The Roman Barber.
That gets
That's
me excited.
your call, right?
Insta, yeah, Insta.
Yeah, Instagram.
Now-
TikTok as well.
No,
roaming
hold
barber.
on, because once again, why bother? Subcategory, self-belief, all of that good stuff. You've been quote unquote the roaming barber since I've known you.
Yeah.
So you've known this is coming. You've known this is what you want to do
Mhm.
for years.
Yeah.
Before you finally got to that aspect. And you know, the why bother aspect is, once again, sidebar, but tying everything in, you're going to have to believe in yourself before anybody else believes in yourself. You have to know, like, if I'm going to do this, fitness, I want to lose 10 pounds,
Sure.
nutrition, I want to get better at counting macros, calories, carbs, whatever it may be. No one else is going to believe in you before you believe in yourself. And you've got to put in the work to be able to do that kind of stuff. And you are a shining example of the, you know, you believe in yourself, you know, you have to put in the work. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be job offers to quit.
Yeah.
And you're still going to end up going and doing what you ultimately love. So that, I feel like, in its essence, is why bother.
So what did he do? He invested in himself. He came up with a plan. Shannon, keep that mic. Sure, yeah. I'm sorry to bother you. Can I get the whiskey there?
Nope.
Hey, I'm just trying to chime into this.
Hold on. I gotta top AJ off before I pass it.
But part of investing in yourself and coming up
I don't
with
pour like Jake.
what you want to do when you talk about the why bother, whether New Year's or, you know, with you with the life reset and, you know, you want to change, there is a part of, there's responsibility of what you're trying to do and how to get there. There's steps to it.
Oh, there's a lot of steps.
That's the point where we talk about the New Year's resolutions. We talk about, like AJ, you were just talking about, I want to lose 10 pounds this year, or whatever it is, whatever it is. I'm not going to belittle anyone's goals.
Listen, we're all rooting for you.
The thing is that to get to a goal, it's the steps. It's not only like, okay, you want to wake up at this time every, you know, because you heard that that's how successful people wake up, and they read a book for a half hour. They don't look at their phone for however many hours. They don't take caffeine. It's like, it works for them.
Right.
What is realistic as a first steps 1 through 5 for you? Are you the type of person that, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, whatever age you are you one to respond to dramatic change? Or do you just rebel against it from your core? I'm not saying don't challenge yourself. I'm saying you got to know, it's a self-assessment. Like, you got to know yourself.
Well,
What do you need for a change? And then it's not just changing the one thing, because it's never one thing that if you're living a lifestyle, it's never just one missing piece. Everyone talks about that missing piece. It's just like, if I could do this, I'm going to succeed at this. Bullshit.
Very fair.
That would be great.
Listen,
That would be great. There is even the people like, if I had $10,000 given me right now, I would turn my life around. No,
which is bullshit.
I hope you do, but there are more instances that, like, you know, you look at like the lottery winners, that they win millions of dollars and they're broke or in jail like 2 years later. It's like, no, it's a lifestyle. This is a core change of who you are.
Well, you're talking about the core change, and I was the person that was scared to make the big change.
Dude, we all, so many, majority of people are.
And I had to tell myself, when I made that commitment to do the barbering, I couldn't be scared of that change anymore. I was so comfortable driving. I was good at it. I made money at it. But that's not who I wanted to be anymore.
But let me interject here.
Mhm.
I've never said this on the podcast before, but I truly think that there's a big part of the change thing is there is not only the comfort, there is a big fear for a lot of people that they're afraid of letting go of their past.
Oh, yeah.
All the highs of their past that they're still holding on to that didn't pan out, they don't want to really just submerge themselves in a new life.
Mm.
They say they want to, but there's still this like history and things that they think of, like when a job goes bad, right? You're in this, like, you think back like, well, yeah, it used to be good. Relationship goes bad. Oh man, it used to be good. They think of the positive. They think of the highs, and people around them have to think about, like, you know, they have to remind people that it's like, yeah, but you were just telling me about how miserable you were. Yeah, but it used to be good. It's like, but think about where you are in this career, in this relationship, in your own personal health journey. It's like, yeah, I used to be able to like do all this. I used to go to the gym. I used to do all this. I used to be happy. Dude, that was 6 years ago.
Right.
We've been having this conversation for 10 years, like whatever the 6 months, whatever it might be. It's like, hopefully you can surround yourself with some people or have the self-realization when you look in the mirror. It's like, you realize that, like, you're afraid to let go of the glory days so that you can have true glory days.
Right.
I think that is a big thing.
You just set a light off. Shannon, do you have something to add? Or
Oh, no.
Before AJ goes to his
about-
light bulb moment.
I'm gonna scoot over here.
you
Nate,
can
turn
see
off
the
my mic.
shining
AJ's about
behind
to just
it.
go after it. Like,
No, you hit the nail on the head. I feel like you just finished what we started with our topic.
all right, call it a night then.
Why? No.
Everyone cheers.
Hey,
Happy with- Oh, I'm sorry.
Listen. Why? Don't cheers.
Turn
him.
off AJ's mic. We're done. Turn
Turn
off the lights. Everyone
listen,
go home.
I will rant for a second.
Tony
but,
needs to go out.
so
Bring in the tarp.
this whole conversation is about why bother, right?
Sure.
Yes.
So
yes.
what
we can
was the
all agree
light
with that.
bulb? What was the light bulb?
The light bulb is the fact that regardless of what you do, life is going to be difficult.
Sure.
So why bother? Why bother is if I stay where I'm at, I'm going to hate looking at myself in the mirror. If I make the change, I'm going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of changing my fitness. I'm going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of changing my diet. Why bother? Because I hate where I'm at with my job. If I stay where I'm at with my job, I'm going to hate it.
Before you finish this, let me just interject one more thing.
Go ahead,
Why-
AJ.
Why bother if things are going well for you?
Because I feel
You're saying I hate this, I hate that. It's
Okay.
like, all right, so things are going well for you.
no. That's fair. So
You just got married. You're working so many different careers that you're seeing. Can you keep all these, you know, levels of income coming in, like the different things, like what's going to stick more than others? You know, you and Ellie just got married. You're expanding things. You don't. I'm not going to speak for you. There's probably some things that you dislike that's going on right now, but overall, you're building right now. So include that in your conversation if you can.
So if we're including that in conversation, and I can't believe that I'm the only one that feels this way. I know there's got to be other people out there. I can do better. That there has, whether it's initial career, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's my home life, family life, I can do better. And that is why I bother, because I feel like no matter what we're doing, you know, whether you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you've made it to that point because you've always wanted to do more. And then you get to that point, I can do more. There's more good I can bring. There's more revenue I can bring for the company.
Sure.
There's more, I can spend more time with my home life. Dude, Shannon, you're about to go and embark on a 365, 24/7 career with your family. So now all of a sudden, why bother? I get to spend time with my family and fulfill my career goals and my life goals all in one swath.
No, thanks to technology, you can contribute to this podcast also. Yeah.
But I think
You can do
also,
it remotely.
yeah.
I'm not saying this is a turning point in his personal life, but
I
I'm
think
just throwing it out there.
I think to AJ's point,
It's nice that we can still talk to you because of technology. You got Wi-Fi out there, all that stuff. You know, satellites are cool. Yeah, baby.
I think kind of what AJ's dancing around is it's easier to try to make changes when things are bad versus when they're good. Like when things aren't going well, when you're unhappy with your physical condition, your career, your relationship, whatever it may be, it's easy to try and change that because you're unhappy. You want to be happy, so you want to make changes. But what do you do when things are going well? What do you do when things are smooth?
So why bother changing?
So why bother to take those steps to develop and do better if things are still okay or good? Shannon,
All
Oh, man,
Shannon.
Steve's dying.
Oh.
Steve's dying.
Hang on. Just light a cigar.
Steve just
outside.
lit up and he's
Welcome back, Steve.
Wait,
Over-
did you have the
over
light
climb.
moment? I had the light moment when you were talking, so you go.
No, Shannon, go ahead.
So you're saying like if things are going good, why bother, right? That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
things are
because-
going
because it's easier
amazing.
to do those changes when it's difficult.
Yeah.
When things suck.
So it's easier to react.
So things right now are going so good. Like I don't have to leave. We don't have to go do this. What I'm doing right now in my career is what I want to do for the rest of my life, right? I'm happy where I am. I love all my friends. I love this city. But I have that goal.
Yeah.
And that goal is what's driving me forward with the fears of leaving, with the fears of what's out on the road, with the fears of shit breaking down. There's so many things that can go wrong once I point this bitch out west.
You're talking about the RV.
The RV. The RV, not his wife. Just to clarify.
I would never call her that because she would kill me.
You're a smart man.
Luckily, she doesn't listen to the
But
podcast.
I
but
just
I'll send her the clip.
there was just this driving force that
Went viral on it.
there's just more out there. There's more to life than what I'm doing here. And if I only do it for a year, if we do it for 2, 5, whatever it's going to be, we're going to go experience it. We're going to experience it together. We're going to make new memories.
Well, you could always make a stop, back on Rangel here, and
I'll
park
be
the
back in
RV.
April.
I'm
I'll be
just
back.
saying,
I'll
I'm
be
just-
back April 20th for Dan's wedding.
Listen,
so
Steve,
What
your
about March
haircut is
18th?
easy.
I'm coming back for that too.
All right, so you gotta make sure you maintain that RV. What I was trying to when I was listening to you guys talk is the reaction side of it, and that's what a lot of people do. You talk about the New Year's resolutions about like obviously the fitness or the career. I'm gonna be a better me. I'm gonna eat better. I'm gonna like treat myself better. I'm gonna wake up earlier. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna drink less. I'm gonna do this. You're reacting to your current lifestyle. What I like about having Shannon, thank you for coming over tonight. Also, I mean, you were later than normal, so I was surprised that you came in, and I was really pleased, especially with this topic, because I did have you in mind when I was talking to AJ. Because again, you never know, and I we've got some great people, like John Belly. He's a great guy that has been a friend of the podcast. He also great person in the cigar community. A lot of people know who he is because he's just really involved. We've done some FaceTime conversations with him and over COVID. You have people that have good lives going. Is it tougher to do New Year's resolutions or just to challenge yourself when things are going well? I think that's what Nate was getting at or is it that you're just reacting to where you're at in life on the negative side? And, again, oddly enough, funny enough, AJ is known in our circle or the Bourbon and BS community is a beam of positivity.
That's what I'm here for.
As my wife calls him, the man who farts rainbows.
That's
Listen,
right, baby.
But I will say that in your comments, you were saying, you know, you hate this, you hate that, and that's why you do this. That's the reaction side of it. I have all the respect, but I think when you hate something of yourself or your life and you're doing this reaction, why bother? That's something that you can challenge someone. It's like, yeah, you know, you're overweight, your career is going down, you lost your family, all these negative things. It's like, why even bother if you're not going to do anything? Are you going to change yourself? No, you're going to be your same self. All right, so take your same self and grow off of it. If it's a negative, it's easier to react to it, but you need to really react to it. Don't do the knee-jerk reaction. React to it and say, how can I actually get better? There is a lot of reflection. There's a lot of things that, what are the steps of getting better? What's step 1? What's step 5? What's step 10? Right? So these are these things that it's not just like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to not eat as much fast food, or I'm not going to eat more often as I'm not going to eat any fast food. It's like, cool. For how long? Because if I'm realistic, if I was I'm not, but if I was your life coach, because I love talking to those people, I really do. We had a couple on the podcast way back, like Grant Disdick or Disdick. He's a Facebook friend of mine. They're doing life coaching things. I love all of that stuff. I love the extreme side of it, but it's like, literally, it's like, give me 3 months. Let me get you through March. You know, with you doing your thing, Shannon, you guys go out there. I can say as a friend, I'm like, dude, you're always welcome. I mean, yeah, give it a shot. 6 months from now, you guys can park it back here and get a condo because you want to get back to Ohio and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But get through March. Get through the first, like, 3 months. You know, when you do this, when you guys, you said 6 weeks. So give it 6 weeks and reflect and really see if this is working for you. Because sometimes these goals that you do from a knee-jerk reaction, John Belly says baby steps. Yeah, but it's this long-term goal. Because sometimes the real change, I think, comes from what you thought was for the best. It's not. So it's really not, because you're not happy doing that. So you changed one lifestyle that you're not happy with to another lifestyle that you're not happy with. Now you're lost. So what do? Now it's, what am I happy with? Like, like the dry January. I'm trying to, like, on the fly, think of all this stuff. Dry January. Do you like having some drinks, going out with some friends? Great. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Do you like blacking out and not knowing what you did? No. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. So dry January, the extreme. I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week out of 7. You're going 0 before that. So now we're honing in on it. Like, you want to work out. Yes, it would be great to be that fitness model that inspired you. They're a little ahead of you. So now it's, can you have a social life? Hey, can you have a relationship? Can you do some of the things you enjoy? Can you drink some whiskey? Can you drink some wine? Can you hang out with some friends? And it's like, well, I can't hang out with friends because I'm not doing this anymore. So then all of a sudden you lose your friendships, because it's like, well, it's not because they were just bar friends, but it's like, we like doing this. So now it's like finding a bit of a balance. And I have all the respect for people that just go extreme. And if you have toxic relationships, get away from that. Mm-hmm. But if you have healthy relationships and you have these common interests, don't shut it all out. Because I am of the belief that, or the opinion that, you will go from one unhappiness to another unhappiness, and now you've lost people. And now you are lost as an individual. And I think that is a big thing of why bother, is going back to find your why and the reason for doing it. Are you unhappy with the extreme of something? Scale it back. And if you have to eliminate that, addicts and everything else, like, yes, for sure. But if you can actually incorporate the things that this lifestyle has lost you, and if you eliminate that, it will also lose you this part of your lifestyle. Now you're exchanging one unhappiness for another unhappiness, and now you're in this constant cycle of finding out who you are.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because it actually, I have a real life example of a change I made where my wife and I went through that 10 years ago when I got out of my career doing toxicology and pharmacology research to pursue a career doing cigar sales.
Sure.
You know, being on the road Monday through Friday. I didn't know it at the time that I took that job, but in my wife's mind, she was going to give me 6 months. See how not only I was after 6 months, but see how our relationship was.
The radical change.
Yeah. Oh, very different. Because
radical change.
Because, you know, we had worked together. We were home every night. We saw each other all the time. And then here I was going to be taking a job where I would leave our apartment Monday morning and come home Friday night. It's a very different lifestyle compared.
She wasn't happy with that. Jess, if you want to comment on that,
she likes hanging out with.
Don't text Nate. I just text, like, you know.
She likes spending time with me. But no,
comment up on the feed.
I didn't know this. She didn't tell me at the time, but she was going to give it 6 months, and then after 6 months, we were going to review how I felt about the job and where we were in our relationship. So, if I was happy with the job, but our relationship was suffering, then she was going to want me to make a change, because she cares more about our relationship than whether or not I'm happy with the job, because that's kind of that priority. Like, which is more important, our marriage or my job, my career?
It has to go hand in hand. You can't just be like, you say it so simply that it's like, I'm going to be more happy on my job. And therefore it's like, well, now it's balance. It's balance. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I didn't realize that she had made that goal of reassessing things after 6 months. But before that 6 month period came up, our relationship was still good. You know, nothing had diminished in our relationship, but she also saw that I was happier. I was a happier person. So then when I was home, I was a happier person for her to be around.
Oddly enough.
So like our relationship. So because I was doing something that I really enjoyed, it made me a better person to be around. So it made our marriage a little bit better, even though I wasn't as home and we weren't seeing she already texted me and we weren't seeing each other.
Come on. Comment on the feed or text me. I'll throw it up there.
So even though we weren't seeing each other as much as we had been, we were spending that time that we did have together. And because I was in a better place personally, it made the time we spent together better. So, so that 6 month review, like, no, she was like, yeah, things are good. You're better. We're good. You know, keep at it.
I think that is the priorities, right? Put up John Belly. Good to see you, man. By the way, John Belly, good guy in the cigar community. He runs a cigar group as well.
Ooh,
so
I was gonna say I love the additions to the podcast.
John says, I try to live by this motto: remove yourself from people who treat you like your time doesn't matter, your feelings are worthless, your soul is replaceable. That's heavy. Because you're going to have people that do that, whether it be personal or a career, for sure. I think career is more common for someone that has things in check, but I also think that this is also a very common thing that you deal with at home in your home life that you don't even realize.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like it's one of those things. Once again, you know, the topic is why bother. John has a great point. You know, you can tie things into the home life from the standpoint of why bother? Why bother try to get out of the status quo? If your home life is XYZ, you know, and we're not talking down on anything, we're just talking in general. If your home life is you were raised low income, you know, maybe it was a broken family, whatever it may be, why bother try to get out of that? Well, because you want better for yourself, you know.
Sure.
And that's another, like you were talking about earlier, what
It's one of those podcasts.
yeah,
I think it was
yeah,
beer.
all
I
of us
think
drank
the
a
fact that
gallon
AJ
of
brought
water.
beer. I mean, that 5 ounces of beer that we each had. I mean,
For those of you that aren't watching the podcast, we've all taken potty breaks.
you don't
That's
have to bring it up.
well,
I mean,
they got to know
for those that
why.
are watching the podcast. That's why we keep leaving our
Yeah.
chairs.
Anyways, your why bother goes back
We're
into
gonna install that urinal in the garage that Bobby Hirschman just like put it in there, and there's like a drainage out there. And Kristen was like, "No,
I think that's a great idea.
I mean, it's not. It's like from an inventive standpoint, I think it's great.
But why
I'm
bother?
not cleaning that.
Find your why. Maybe
Sure.
your why is because you want better for yourself. You want better for the future family that you're bringing into the world. Things along those lines.
Oh, is that
And
what you think?
Well, that's all stuff that
Hypothetical.
hypothetically speaking. It's Wednesday. I don't make the announcement until Thursday. Anyways,
Stay tuned on social media.
Yeah, stay tuned for social media.
Coffee Viking.
Anyways, the why bother goes back to you want better for yourself. What is your why for why even attempt it? Why bother?
I think your why changes
That
constantly.
I like that.
But I think
It's
that
fluid.
it is fluid. We brought this up because AJ and I were talking again about, you know, like what do we want to talk about topic wise, and Nate missed your comments, which is
Good for everybody.
yeah, not against you, Nate, but I think you're gonna just overflow with joy.
What'd I miss?
Subtleness, but your why is fluid is what we came up with, is that it's always changing. So that's the why bother. We did it because we were talking about like New Year's resolutions, and I think from a surface level, and I think this is a point that we could probably round it out with, you know, this kind of closing remarks, but I'll intro the closing remarks of the why bother is fluid. This is something that it's like you got to figure out what you want out of life. And you know, Shannon being in the garage, thankfully, I'm always inspired by him being here, and I love that. And I do hope that you can, on Wednesdays, you find a stable campground or Wi-Fi, or I'm like, we'll up the Patreon hopefully, and maybe we can get like a satellite phone for Shannon Chapman. But I think this is something. I think it's something that, you know, it's like, you know, you didn't know you wanted to do this 20 years ago. And 10 years ago, it was an inclination. It was like this kind of idea. And then 5 years ago, it was stronger. And then here we are. That's what I'll lead into closing remarks with the why bother, is like, we can talk about some surface level thing, not trivializing that. If you want to get in better shape, if you want to eat better, if you want to do better in your career, if you want to have more self-respect for yourself, you want to have a dry January, whatever whatever it might be, it's the why. Why bother? Are you going to change? Is it short term? I look at that dry January thing and I respect it, because if that's something that someone needs to like just physically just reset themselves, and you know, they take 1 month out of the year, 1 month out of 12, it's like I do this for like a flush, a cleanse. It's like, great. When I get messages from people that are doing that on January 2nd or 3rd or 4th, and it's like, oh my God, I wish I could cheers you guys on this. It's like, stay with it, but stay with it for the right reasons. If all you're going to do is February 1st, you're just blitz drunk, hopefully you appreciate the fact that you had a physical reset. But if you're just going to treat your body like a dumpster after that, the physical side of it, the career side of it, I'm going to be really, really like respectful of other people's opinions. I'm going to open myself up to other people's suggestions. I'm going to do whatever the New Year's resolution is. And it's like all of a sudden February or March or April, it's like, fuck those people. It's like, well, I mean, hopefully it's as a response to what you learned from your New Year's resolutions that you changed. But if you're just doing it and you're holding, you're just like biding your time, it's not worth it. So closing remarks, Nate, AJ.
AJ, you're the guest.
Shannon,
throw me
you wanna
under
get in
the
there?
bus.
Guest always goes first.
Shannon goes. Shannon's the audience. Go
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Make Shannon go first. That way, he gives me something to go off of.
I'll give you a moment. So if we're gonna close it out here, let's start with the why.
Why bother?
Figure out your why, whatever it is, whatever motivates you to change, whatever in your life you want to change. 2, plan. Develop the plan. Because the why and the thing you want to change without the plan goes nowhere, in my opinion. Stick to the plan as hard as it gets, because it's gonna get hard. You're gonna stumble. You're gonna fall. You might get off the wagon for a second, but you're gonna be whatever it's gonna be. Understand that's gonna be stumbling blocks, right?
If it was easy, you would have already been doing it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
So just understand and don't expect it to happen fast. I mean, depending on what this goal is, it could take a year, it could take 5. Just stick to your plan, stick to your why, and just enjoy the process. I think people get caught up in the process. When it gets hard, they want to quit. But the process is where you learn.
Part of trusting the process is also that your initial plan changes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you can understand that whole journey with all the stumbling blocks, and when you fail, make sure you learn from that failure, because that's what failure's for, to learn.
Love it.
So, yeah, that's it, man. Just find your why, make a game plan, understand it's going to be hard, but when you get to the end of it, it's going to be glorious.
Love that. Love that. AJ,
Yeah, no, I
you
think
build off that, or you need more?
that's heavy stuff.
I know. I don't think you need more. I was just asking you.
My why bother still goes back to one of my original questions, which is, are you happy with where you're at? Regardless of what it is, whether it's fitness, whether it's health, whether it's career, whether it's family, whatever it may be, are you happy with where you're at? And so the why bother should then turn into, if you're not happy in all facets, make those necessary changes, take those jumps, take those scary moments, go for it. If you come up short, you give it a couple of weeks and you go back after it. It just, why bother? Because you're not happy with where you're at right now.
Or you could be happier.
Or you could
Or
be
you're
happier.
or you're happy, and how can you build off
What
of
can
it?
I do to be better?
I'm trying to give you some note cards because you just got married. And I was at your wedding, and like, you are happy.
Oh, dude, I'm stoked.
Ellie,
Listen, so
I'll share
You
these
are a
comments.
lucky son of a bitch.
I got to get better at, like, in my off time, just like taking some snippets and sending them to
and
people.
send it
like,
to me.
Ellie, like,
The-
super happy.
the-
He's great.
the
great
short
wedding.
version-
Like, he says that, but he's super happy.
What Steve's getting at is I'm very blessed. I'm stoked with my life right now. I've got a entrepreneurial endeavor. I've got a job that pays the bills. I've got an amazing wife.
There-
We
that was third.
are starting a
Man,
You listened to
family.
that?
first.
Ooh.
See that?
Oh, I heard that. I caught that. I don't know if Steve caught that.
But I
Oh,
know
I already know.
personally
Well.
I can do better. And so that's my why bother, because of the fact that if and when the time comes for me and I bring someone else into the world, I want to make sure that I am at peak AJ Kazmierczak to be able to make sure that I'm giving them the best life possible.
I don't know that the world can handle peak AJ.
Well, we're getting 2 of them, baby. We got another one coming.
Well, on that note,
congratulations.
On that note, share the podcast and reach out to Ellie and say God bless and good luck.
Good luck is the big thing.
Jesus.
Nate, closing remarks.
I I'd written mine down, and they kind of tie off
Thank
of
God
what
for alcohol that you exposed that.
they kind of tie off of what
Give me a glass. Cheers.
you and Shannon
Just a little bit.
what you and Shannon said. One of the first things that popped in my head, my stepdad, when he was a preacher, he used to have these things he called quotable quotes. And one that always pops in my mind every so often, and tonight made me think of it, was, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And how I tie that into this is what you've gotten good enough? If what you've done so far and the results of what you've done so far is not good enough, that's why bother. If what you've done has been good enough, the why bother becomes, maybe there's more. Maybe there's more that you can get. Maybe there's more satisfaction, more happiness, more achievements that can be gained. And that's why you start doing some of the things that maybe you haven't done before. And I think with a lot of people, it's very easy for them that when there's a slight hurdle on the road, when there's a speed bump on the road, it becomes a mountain.
Sure.
They turn a speed bump into a mountain. And I think what a lot of people struggle with is, don't let a setback become a hard stop. Like, you may not succeed the first time. It may not go as smoothly as what you had planned, but don't let that deter you from pushing forward and achieving what it is you set out to achieve, or what it is that you want out of the why.
It's good stuff.
Solid.
Once again, I love John Belly. I'll put him up here. It's a big one here. I don't think anyone is totally 100% happy about themselves. It's a bold statement. I think it's accurate to a lot of degrees. This is just my opinion. I also think if someone says they're perfect, they're lying to themselves. Example, I want my son to be better than I ever was, so I try to teach him the right way, not the way I did it. So I use that to improve myself, so he will see I'm trying to be better, so he can follow my lead. It's about your motivation, right? So John, appreciate you tuning in and sharing that stuff. I love the live conversation on this podcast. That's why we do this type of format. It's very unscripted, and I can really appreciate that. The why bother, it goes back to find your why, right? That is, John, as he speaks, it's his son. Nate, you have your opinion of where you go from here. AJ, you have your opinion on where you go from here. The why bother is, when it comes down to it, it's for you. It's absolutely for you. You have one life. And I'm not saying that you have to inspire millions or thousands. You don't have to even inspire yourself, but it's find out your why. Why do you bother doing anything? At the very core of it, you're miserable. Like, let's go to the negative. AJ, you kept saying, And it was surprising to hear you on this podcast say the word hate. You hate doing this.
Yep.
Why do you wake up in the morning? You got to find your why. Sometimes it's literally just to not be miserable. But the goal is that you can use New Year's that you are doing this to be better. I had a customer today come in and just always ask questions, right? He drives 30, 45 minutes away to come to the shop and grab his cigars, and love the guy. He's just super nice. And, you know, even 2 years ago when I was going through some stuff, it took him 6 months to get back from me. He's like, how are you really? You know, because one day I said, it's been a rough one. I was open to him, you know. And he's like, oh, how you doing? And even today he came in. How was your New Year's? I was like, well, it was good. He's like, no, how was it really? Retired guy. And, you know, every time he leaves, it's like, how's everything for you? He's like, well, I'm trying to, like, you know, just deal with, you know, like, you know, just it's good, but, you know, I'm retired. And I'm just like, well, you don't have to brag about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's you find your why. You what is going to make you enjoy today and tomorrow and whatever time you have left. I truly think that, you know, depending on your age, if you're younger, it's one thing. If you're older, it's another. But there's a commonality there that if you stop finding what you enjoy out of your life, or if other people rely on you, you lose yourself. So there is a constant. We had AJ on for an episode about being hungry, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I think that is a big thing. Is I feel as though is that we have to wake up and look at ourselves in the mirror, and this is another day. This is what do you want from your life? What's left of it? It's never a definite time. It's a finite time for you. And I'm sorry to be the rude awakening here, is that it could be tomorrow. So this is your why, is that do you enjoy what you're doing? If you don't, that's okay. But you have to figure out what your purpose is. You have to figure out what will be better. And if you have some drive, if you want to be better, if you want to continue to grow, if things are going well for you, keep those aspects going well for you. Keep it growing, keep it happy. It doesn't matter if things are going well or if things are going poorly and you're reacting to it. But you have to always respond to what's going on in your everyday life so that you can have a potential future. You can have the potential happiness for you and other people around you. Drive forward, push forward. I really think that you can get in a rut, but you can get out of it as well. And sometimes the rut is good, but you're just bored.
That's fair. Yeah.
Absolutely. You've said that before, but yeah,
seek out a new conversation, seek out a new input so that you can grow, and you might find yourself really, why bother? Just for the sake of it, to find purpose in life.
Yeah.
I really think that there's so much out there that we think that your everyday life is it. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much out there that you can actually grasp certain things that will build you up. And I think as we get older, as you go through life, you're going to realize what building blocks that you can stack on top of what you're already doing. On the positive side, things are going well, get better. Don't get complacent. And I feel like there's a lot of enjoyment. We've gone through a roller coaster the last few years, and you know, we had Shannon giving his experiences, AJ giving his experiences, Nate giving his experiences, and you guys reflecting on this podcast. I wish we would have you guys all in the garage or on this feed. And I just really think that together, if you're listening to something like this, if you're talking about something like this, you want a little bit more. You want to get better, even if things are going well. And sometimes when things are going well, you don't know how to make it better. So you get complacent and you just hold on to where you're at. You hold on the good times. It's not over until it is. And I think that we need to really ride that ride until we can't.
Yeah.
So with that, guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Happy New Year. Nope.
Oh, damn.
No, there's the whiskey bottle right there. AJ has a empty glass.
Give me
Steve.
30 seconds.
So thanks to Tinderbox of Easton in Columbus, Ohio, Altadis USA, BS Cigar Company, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast, or Venmo at Bourbon and BS. Thanks for having an empty glass so I can put those plugs out there. Buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Happy
Thanks
New
for
Year.
having
Happy
me.
Whiskey
I
Wednesday.
appreciate you guys.
And congratulations, AJ, for the impending news. Cheers, guys.